What do you know about coconuts? Other than that they are delicious. I love coconuts. They're in some of my favorite candy bars, Almond Joy, Mounds. They're in some of my favorite candies, dark chocolate coconut haystacks, chocolate dipped coconut macaroons. Love coconut cream pie. Really love German chocolate cake. Probably my favorite cake. Raspberry zingers are one of my old favorite gas station treats. Coconut Samoas, they're my favorite Girl Scout cookies. I could keep going, coconut milk and a latte, coconut milk ice cream. Big fan of coconuts. Odds are you probably at least enjoy them in some form as well. If you've been on a tropical vacation recently, you might have had one cleaved in half with a machete to access that cool milk inside, or maybe you had a tropical cocktail nestled in nature's cup. I love myself a pina colada on vacation. Or maybe you enjoy them from afar. You might think of coconut bras, hey Lucifina, or of coconut oil, the latter being very popular these days for everything from cooking to skincare. Or you might think of Gilligan's Island type gags in which coconuts fall on people's heads. And in that vein, you might think of deserted islands, of stories of shipwrecks and mutiny, of men who would face their certain doom if it weren't for the coconut that sustains them long enough to get off the island. And in that respect, you would be close to the narrative of today's story. Except it didn't play out exactly like that. Much weirder. When August Engelhart was born in Germany in 1877, probably nobody expected that the man born and raised so far from any tropical island would live a large portion of his life in German New Guinea, one of Germany's colonial possessions in the Pacific. And if they did, they probably would have thought that he would have gone there to be a merchant or a tradesman, some government official, one of the valiant few who sailed the southern seas to enrich Germany's colonial empire, an empire that had started comparatively late to other European empires and was trying to catch up as the 20th century dawned. But August Engelhart would not go to the Pacific as a tradesman, as a diplomat, or even as a government official or Christian missionary. He went as a coconut fanatic, a coconut. As a young man, Engelhart had been studying chemistry in order to become a pharmacist when he came upon the concept of cocovorism, eating only coconuts, like forever. You heard me right. He thought it would actually be a good idea to eat nothing but coconuts for the rest of his life. He thought doing that would greatly extend his life and improve its quality. Involved in the Lebensform movement, German for life reform, a series of groups that advocated for better living through exercise, natural therapies, and spending time in nature, he quickly became interested in how diet could change your life dramatically. And he felt that miraculous health benefits were possible through the mysterious and godly tropical fruit. Truly miraculous. He believed that perhaps not only was the coconut good for your diet, but it was good for your soul as well. It was ordained by God to be so. Because if you looked at it one way, didn't the coconut, the meat, the milk, the shell, kind of sort of resemble the Holy Trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? If heaven was above us, didn't that mean that the coconut, pretty tall tree, seemingly reaching up to the heavens, was closest to God's kingdom? Engelhart thought so. He thought a lot of things. And he would quickly take his obsession all the way to German New Guinea to the remote outpost of Herbeto, where he bought a coconut plantation and planned for his followers, whom he hoped to attract with his writings, to come join him in this coconut paradise. He called his group the Sanatorium, which translates to Brotherhood of the Sun, or Order of the Sun. While he felt that coconuts were the food of the gods, he felt that the sun gave us power from God. Coconuts nourish the body in the most godly way, and the sun nourished the mind in the most godly way. Today's episode is so delightfully coconuts. Reminiscent of an extended version of our old Wackadoodle of the Week Secret Suck segment for any space lizards listening. It's a doozy. Get ready to go on a journey from the German Empire to the popular and very odd sanatoriums of the late 19th and early 20th centuries with their ridiculous miracle cures that ran the gamut from idiotic to downright terrifying, all the way to Herbeto and the small plantation island of Cabacan, where August Engelhart would live out his strange days. Engelhart, true coconut, and the strange commune he founded in Papua New Guinea that many have called a cult, his Brotherhood of the Sun, his Sanatorium, right now on a very strange and delicious edition of Timesuck.
This is Michael McDonald, and you're listening to Timesuck.
You're listening to Timesuck.
Happy Monday, and welcome to the Cult of the Curious. I'm Dan Cummins, the Suckmaster, true crime prankster, Jim Baker watchdog. Don't buy anything that grifter is selling. And you are definitely listening to Timesuck. Hail Nimrod, hail Lucifina, praise be to good boy Bojangles, and glory be to Triple M. For anyone curious, Lindsay and I did watch that 2021 film, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, after last week's recording, like I mentioned. As good as advertised. My God, Jessica Chastain is a brilliant actress. She became Tammy Faye for that film. And right or wrong, I ended up liking Tammy Faye even more. It was just a, dramatized movie, I know, but I'm going to hold on to the belief that she was the sweetest of souls who just wanted everyone to feel loved and taken care of. And her picker was off. And she ended up with a con artist of Jim Baker. He's a phony scumbag. One quick and kind announcement, and then, boy, oh boy, do I have an odd tale for you. Love a weird tale. This month, the day after this episode drops on April 23rd, we celebrate World Book Day as a lover of knowledge and also escapism. And in honor of World Book Day, this month's Patreon donation will be going to First Book, a nonprofit working to inspire young minds through books. Thank you, Space Lizards. They believe that books are a critical resource for kids, but they can be scarce for those who are disadvantaged. In fact, First Book has discovered book deserts in certain low-income communities, places where there might be just one book, shared amongst up to 830 kids, for example. If books have helped you escape hard times, provided you with entertainment, education, or enlightenment, then you know just how important books are. And we donated $12,950 to First Book. If you want to learn more about this wonderful organization, you can visit firstbook.org. And now let's head to a story that is so just deliciously weird. Hail Nimrod, you know I love weird. Today's topic is so weird, so esoteric and little known. There's only been a handful of books and articles that have ever been written about it. At least that you can easily access here in the States. There's a very practical reason for that. Most of the documents about August Engelhart's life are either in New Guinea or nearby New Zealand or Australia, which is relatively hard to access for most of the world, or because, and they're not online, they haven't been digitized. And those documents, many of them were destroyed when Germany was beaten in 2 world wars. Also, there has not been as much interest in this story as there have been in many traditional cults due to the fact that Son of Norden wasn't actually a cult. I think it was trying to be a cult. It was the gestation period never led to the full cult. I think August Engelhart would have been a cult leader. He definitely attracted followers, convinced them to move halfway across the world, live a radically different life. But he was never a true cult leader. Never pressured people outside of just emotional pressure, not any cult leader type way to stay. Definitely a wackadoodle. August Engelhart certainly fashioned himself as a visionary, a prophet of coconuts, as crazy as that sounds, leader of the new millennium, a health guru, and a spiritual one to boot. But he wasn't a Jim Jones-style, Charles Manson-esque cult leader. People were free to come and go from Cabacan, his island, as they pleased, and they would leave, almost all of them, usually pretty quickly. There are no recorded instances of Engelhart ever using violence or coercion, although at least one guy maybe got murdered, but we don't know. Engelhart seemed mostly dangerous to himself. His diet of coconuts didn't work out well for his health, made his body weaker and weaker, and more riddled with sores as the years went on. Crazy, he did not die long before he did of malnutrition. Like a true cult leader, he didn't make money from people. At one point, he did ask for a deposit of 1,000 German marks for new people newly coming to his little island refuge, but it was only if you could afford it. He still even towards the end said the poor didn't have to pay for anything to join. He was actually, it seems like a nice guy, completely out of his fucking mind in many ways, and a man who, if you did follow him, he could easily ruin your life. You could die following his advice, and some did, but not an asshole. He didn't seem to ever have been fucking anyone under shady pretenses that we know of. I'm not sure he was fucking anyone, period. I'm not sure for the majority of his life he had the energy or strength to fuck anybody. Turns out only eating coconuts for years is a good way to get real weak and have almost no energy. The Son of Norden he created was a lot more like a weird lifestyle commune or group than it was a cult. Like if Gwyneth Paltrow moved to a random island with a bunch of her fans, and they spent their days shoving pumice stones into their vaginas and having sound baths and, fucking doing energy healing, which somehow doesn't feel that far away. If she or Jared Leto, or both of them, don't fire up a true cult soon, I'm going to be pretty disappointed. That'll be a great episode. Despite the lack of violence and fucking and mind control, the Sauna Norden has still been fascinating to examine for multiple reasons. For one, it's an interesting look into the history of Germany at a time when it seemed like Germany may have been positioned to become the next major empire in the world, competing with the world's most powerful nations like Britain and France. Germany's imperial aspirations were partially a reflection of a culture that had become largely very monolithic, in that people were expected to fully embody being a German citizen and a citizen of the empire at all times, participating in a lifestyle that was cosmopolitan, busy, focused on attaining wealth, a lot of work, very worldly. But August Engelhart was part of a small minority that rejected all of that, a little counterculture movement, one that saw the rise of industrialism and urban culture and hated it. One that argued that people should go back to the way things were before, like a long time before, when people could take care of their bodies, nature, eat fresh food, bathe in the sun, be naked all the time, experience holistic healing. Does that sound kind of familiar? I feel like we're experiencing something similar in our culture today. A call to grind less, lay around in the sun, more. Maybe not eat coconuts, but just relax more. Because August Engelhart's story is so directly a part of the story of the rise of things like yoga, holistic healing, spas, and saunas, and so many other things today wrapped up in the category of wellness, it actually has far more relevance to our time than you might think at quick glance. In many ways, Engelhardt is a bit like Amy Carlson, potential future suck subject, former leader of the Love Has Won cult. Before she died, Carlson and her followers believed that she was Mother God, a 19 billion-year-old being. I love that number, very specific. Not 20, but now 19. And a reincarnation of Jesus Christ, of course, and that she could heal people of cancer who had cancer with the power of love. She was so convinced of her healing power and so convincing to others that when she came down with a mysterious illness, she stated it was cancer, but it was probably poisoning due to the large amounts of colloidal silver she was consuming recklessly. Her followers would not take her to the hospital, not even when she became paralyzed from the waist down. A miracle was coming. Well, it didn't. Carlson died at Callahan's Mountain Lodge in Ashland, Oregon, sometime in early April 2021, but her death would not be reported to the police until April 28th, at which point her body was partially mummified. An autopsy report in December of 2021 stated that Carlson had died from alcohol abuse, anorexia, and chronic colloidal silver ingestion. Autopsy found no evidence that Carlson had cancer. Maybe she did cure herself of cancer, but then killed herself through a type of needless malnutrition from not taking care of her body. The same exact thing would not happen to August Engelhart, but there are some interesting parallels. People living by their ideals dangerously, people getting very, very sick through circumstances they created that they could easily avoid in order to live by those ideals. Before we get into all that, let's take a quick moment to look at the culture that would produce August Engelhart, the German Empire, a little history before we get into all the silly wackadoodleness, and how the German Empire would lead this strange man all the way to New Guinea. When we think of countries that colonized many parts of the world in the 19th century, we often don't think of Germany, do we? I don't. Great Britain probably comes to mind first, and with good reason. Beginning in the 16th century, Britain began to really build its empire, and over the next centuries, the comparatively tiny Kansas-sized country would come to rule large areas of North America, Australia, New Zealand, Asia, and Africa, as well as small parts of Central and South America as well. The size of the British Empire, the amount of land and number of people under British rule changed in size substantially over the years. At its height in 1922, it was the largest empire the world had ever seen, covering around a quarter of the Earth's land surface and ruling over an estimated 458 million people. That's roughly a shit ton of people, and a quarter of the entire world's estimated population at that time, which was somewhere between 1.86 and 2 billion people. France is up second, with 90 colonies at its peak, then Portugal with 52, and then, any guesses? I would not have gotten this. The Netherlands with 29. I always forget about the Netherlands when it comes to colonial powers. Germany comes in fifth with a measly 20 colonies, which is actually a lot, just not compared to the top three. And there's good reason for that. When the British Empire was kicking off in the 16th century, Germany as we know it today literally did not exist. It wasn't a true country, let alone an empire. It was more of a loose collection of princedoms and kingdoms ruled by a number of notable families who were always in competition with each other. During the Franco-Prussian War, this would change when most of the leaders of the German-speaking nations of Europe voluntarily chose to unite with Prussia to form a single, unified German state. Germany didn't formally incorporate until 1871. By that time, the German Reich was not taken seriously by much of Europe when it came to competition for the acquisition of overseas colonial territories. But though they were late to the party, the Germans quickly tried to make up for it. You might remember from numerous previous episodes the Berlin Conference in 1884, which carved up Africa. We dedicated episode 74 entirely to that. Powerful pressure from various internal factions, as well as some reckless colonial pioneers in Africa, forced German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, to some extent against his will, into government support for the occupation of the first colonial territories in 1884. This marked the climax of the European competition for territory in Africa, a process commonly known as the Scramble for Africa, and Germany would play a big role in that, competing against Belgium, France, Britain, France, and Belgium for influence and economic opportunities. And still today, much of Africa suffers thanks directly to the reverberations of those actions. In this meeting, the countries would parcel up territories, access to rivers and ports, and pave the way for future trade, all without asking any of the continent's actual inhabitants, of course. In 1884 and 1885, Germany acquired large territories in Africa in today's Togo, Cameroon, Namibia, and Tanzania. And in the late 1890s, smaller possessions in East Asia, the Shandong province in China, and in the Pacific, Samoa, New Guinea, and a number of Pacific islands were added. And those are where we'll be talking about today, the German Pacific colonies. Germans first became active as traders in the Pacific in the mid-19th century. The Hamburg firm of J.C. Godefroy and Sohn established a trading base in Samoa in 1857, and 10 years later laid out its first copra plantation. Copra, or copra, is the dried white flesh of the coconut, from which coconut oil is extracted. Traditionally, the coconuts are sun-dried, especially for export, before the oil, also known as copra oil, is pressed out. The oil extracted from copra is rich in lauric acid, making it an important commodity in the preparation of laurel alcohol, soaps, fatty acids, cosmetics, etc., and thus a lucrative product for many coconut-producing countries or for their colonial overlords. By 1879, German cotton and copra plantations covered an area of 4,337 acres and employed 1,210 laborers. In the 1870s, Edward and Franz Hernsheim established trading bases in the Bismarck Archipelago and the Marshall and Gilbert Islands. Godefroy went bankrupt in 1879, but its interests survived in the organization DHPG, which stands for some very fucking tough to pronounce German words. And that organization pressed for German annexation of Samoa in the hope of acquiring forced labor for its plantations. Intent on protecting German trading interests and taking advantage of British diplomatic weaknesses, the German government now annexed Kaiser Wilhelmsland, northeastern New Guinea, and the Bismarck Archipelago, New Britain and New Ireland, those two islands, in 1884. The western half of the island of New Guinea had been claimed since 1828 by the Netherlands. In 1883, the British colony of Queensland in Australia annexed southeastern New Guinea, and the year after it became part of the British Empire. Now, for many years, New Guinea would be carved up amongst three colonial powers. The western half, controlled by the Netherlands, the southeastern quarter of the island, controlled by the British, and the northeastern quarter of the island, where most of our story takes place today, controlled by the Germans. Meanwhile, hundreds and hundreds of tribes are living on this island, and most of them in the dense jungles of the interior will not even realize what's going on. None of this will affect them for quite some time, because for the most part, the colonial powers stay near the coast. Still today in Papua New Guinea, just the eastern half of the island, there are 839 different indigenous languages still spoken. It's the most linguistically diverse place on Earth. The western half of the island, home to hundreds of more languages and peoples, belongs to Indonesia, and the island as a whole, home to somewhere around 900 tribes, some still living as they have for thousands of years. It's a fascinating place. From 1885 to 1899, German New Guinea was a protectorate ruled by the German New Guinea Company. Then the German government agreed to take over administration of New Guinea, and a governor was appointed, based at Herberto, now Kokopo, in New Britain, where a substantial part of our story will take place today. Confusing, I know, to have an island called New Britain in the German-controlled part of New Guinea. Same for the island of New Ireland, also part of the German New Guinea at this time. Those two islands, the biggest islands of New Guinea after the island of New Guinea itself. This new German empire in the Pacific came to a sudden end following the outbreak of World War I in 1914. In August, New Zealand troops landed on Samoa, and the Germans surrendered without resistance. In German New Guinea, there was fighting, but Australian troops quickly gained control in September. In October, Japanese forces occupied the Marshalls and Carolines and the remaining German islands north of the equator. And it was all over. But for a decent period of time, good 30 years or so, seemed like the Germans might end up with an empire that would rival the British and the French empires. To even attempt that was a huge pursuit. The Germans in the late 19th and early and mid 20th century, not short on ambition when it came to territorial expansion, as we all know. And Germany needed enormous sums of money as well as manpower to make this attempt, which meant that the empire had to foster a culture of patriotism, really nationalism, sacrifice, and duty. Indeed, the culture of Germany in the late 1800s was one very focused on just those things. Let's now understand that culture, which will help us understand August Engelhardt's reaction to that culture. Like we talked about with other empires, the Japanese for one, the German Empire wanted its people to consider themselves Germans and only Germans, right? The powerful monster of nationalism. It can be great for an economy and for the average member of the majority culture's standard of living, but it also leads to a tremendous loss of individual freedoms and depression and sometimes destruction of anyone deemed an other. To this nationalistic end, one major goal of reforms by the German Empire was to make sure people didn't think of the empire as just something that concerned politicians, rulers, diplomats, the wealthy, but instead the empire was a big collective of everyday people who adapted their lifestyles for the supposed good of the German Reich. We're all in this together. I mean, you're not going to make any fucking money, but we're in this together, kind of. One way to do this was to eliminate the use of non-German languages in public life, schools and academic settings, with the intent of pressuring the non-German population to abandon their national identity in what was called Germanification. For most Germans, what changed first was both straightforward and a major part of their lives: work. Increased organization and industry was needed to sustain a global economy, which meant that there was a marked increase in the number of working men and women between 1871 and 1913, from 17.3 million all the way to 30.9 million, almost double. This amounted to an average annual growth rate of 1.2%, which made the titans of industry much wealthier, and the average person could expect to see a little more economic and social mobility. Coal production, railroad companies, chemical manufacturing, and agriculture flourished. To be sure, there were some slowdowns, but for the most part, the period saw large growth in many sectors of the economy. Workers, too, saw more benefits. In the 1880s, Bismarck introduced old age pensions, accident insurance, medical care, and unemployment insurance that formed the basis of the modern European welfare program. The social security systems installed by Bismarck, health care in 1883, accident insurance in 1884, invalidity and old age insurance in 1889, at the time were the largest in the world, and to some degree still exist in Germany today. This sort of policy was very appealing to the government. It bound workers to the state. But there was no better way to make people loyal to the empire than to have them become agents of the empire itself. The need for more diplomats, emissaries, and trading agents to manage all these territories and exchanges created an expansive network of civil servants, people employed by and faithful to the German Empire, scattered around the world. And this didn't stop with Bismarck's exit from politics. Bismarck's seemingly impregnable position had one major weak spot. The emperor had to regard him as indispensable. And the emperor, Wilhelm I, Wilhelm in German, did, but then he died. On March 9th, 1888, Wilhelm I died shortly before his 91st birthday, leaving his son Frederick II as the new emperor, or new Kaiser. By the time of his accession, however, Frederick had developed incurable laryngeal cancer, which had been diagnosed in 1887. He died on just the 99th day of his rule, June 15th, 1888, and now his son, Wilhelm II, becomes Kaiser. Wilhelm II, the third and last German Kaiser, had no allegiance to Bismarck's pragmatic piece-by-piece approach to building a new German empire. He represented the new Germany, which knew zero moderation, a young, self-confident Germany which recognized no limits to German power. And Wilhelm II was impatient with Bismarck's social conservatism, which seemed to estrange the emperor from the mass of his subjects. The dispute between the emperor and his cronies and Bismarck and his came to a head after the general election of 1890, when Bismarck had failed to follow the new cultural national trend and failed to carry the election. Bismarck wished to tear up the imperial constitution now, which he himself had made, and to set up a naked military dictatorship. The two would quarrel, and ultimately Bismarck would resign. in March of 1890. With Bismarck's departure, Wilhelm II now became the true sole ruler of Germany. Unlike his grandfather, Wilhelm I, who had been largely content to leave government affairs to the chancellor, Wilhelm II wanted to be fully informed, actively involved in running Germany, not an ornamental figurehead, the way many German monarchs were at the time. He would usher in an era of creative ferment in the society, politics, culture, art, literature, and architecture of Germany. Like Bismarck, Wilhelm wanted to make Germany a global power, but he'd go full steam ahead, where Bismarck was a little more hesitant and careful, a little more pragmatic. Unlike Bismarck, who favored keeping people loyal to Germany through jobs, social security, economic measures, Wilhelm thought the same thing could be accomplished via making German culture the best of the best, the most fun. And with more people gathered in cities, traveling around, being well employed, people turned to certain vices. The proliferation of social clubs meant the average German was drinking more, smoking more, probably having more casual romantic dalliances as well, though there's not any statistical evidence to back that up. Lucifina assures me it's true, though. So much Bavarian scat play. Or maybe it wasn't that wild, but much more decadent than it was before. Soon, German culture was thriving and seemed to be all about the empire, decadence, vice, appreciating the good life. But there were people, as there always are in history, who looked at this growth and its associated values and lifestyle and decided, I don't like it. Not for me. Educators opposed to the German state-run schools, which emphasized military education, set up their own independent liberal schools, which encouraged individuality, the arts, freedom. Some Germans who didn't like where Germany was headed coalesced under the new banner of Lebensform, literally translated to lifestyle reform. Instead of rushing to become citizens of the empire with industrious jobs to match, advocates for Lebensform advocated for just the opposite, returning to nature, living on a small parcel of land, hopefully by a body of water, living off the earth. Lebensform, in a certain sense, was the precursor to what we might call natural medicine, homeopathy, today. The Lebensform movement in Germany originally was a politically diverse movement. There were hundreds of groups across Germany dedicated to some or all of the concepts associated with Lebensform: ecology, organic farming, vegetarianism, naturalism, aka nudity, and abstinence from alcohol and tobacco. I don't know. Sounds kind of cool, but maybe also kind of boring. Though there were many different strains of Lebensform, almost all Lebensform enthusiasts agreed that people should eat natural, unprocessed products as much as possible. You shopped at the health food store, known to this day as Reformhaus, and spent a lot of your time in the kitchen, as the menus were a lot of work. In addition, most advocated for a daily schedule that provided sufficient sleep and rest periods, which was dominated by an idea of moderation in all things. A person should not eat too much, should definitely not smoke or drink at all, and should be physically active. Not even smoke weed? Again, that sounds kind of nice, but kind of boring. In terms of leisure activities, Lebensformers went in for a whole range of sporting activities, such as various ball games. Popular ones at the time were similar to dodgeball or baseball today. Swimming, cross-country running, dancing and gymnastics were popular initially, but then yoga with its breathing and relaxation techniques became more popular. The Swiss Naturist Federation published numerous yoga textbooks and thus contributed to the spread of this activity into Switzerland as well. Indeed, many of today's yoga studios in Western nations are definitely a part of the Lebensform legacy, whether they realize it or not. Fascinatingly, not all of these groups were, as we might think, necessarily liberal. They came from all corners of the political spectrum. Some would even be absorbed into National Socialism, aka the Nazi Party. As early as 1907, Nazi Dick Richard Unkwitter published a pamphlet called Nudity in Culture, which sold 100,000 copies, arguing that the practices he recommended would be, quote, the means by which the German race would regenerate itself and ultimately prevail over its neighbors and the diabolical Jews who are intent on injecting putrefying agents into the nation's blood and soil. Yeah, whip your fucking German cock sausage out. Flop out those Bavarian titties. That'll teach those diabolical Jews. Not sure what it'll teach them, but it'll teach them something. It'll show them something. Now back to our main topic. Lebensform as a movement led to a lot of things: the proliferation of yoga, vegetarianism, nudist resorts, and even, as we just learned, seeing some old Nazi peen. One other thing it would lead to, one very, very bizarre thing, wouldn't have as much staying power, or really any staying power at all. But fascinating while it lasted. Before we get into that coconut madness, a note regarding the upcoming timeline. Since, as we mentioned, record keeping was so shoddy, years listed for specific events tend to vary. So one source might say something happened in 1904 versus 1905, etc. Doesn't matter for this story. We'll be using the timeline of a doctoral dissertation written by Sven Monter entitled Following a South Seas Dream, August Engelhart, and the Sana Norden for the majority of our information. Let's now get into August Engelhart's coconut cult, or the Sana Norden.
Strap on those boots, soldier. We're marching down a Timesuck timeline.
August Engelhart was born on November 27th, 1875 in the German city of Nuremberg. Most well known for the Nuremberg trials, the post-World War II trials that would determine the guilt of high-ranking Nazi officials. Nuremberg has a history that dates back long before then. The first written mention of the city occurred in 1050, mentioning Nuremberg as the location of an imperial castle. From 1050 to 1572, the city expanded, rose dramatically in importance due to its location on key trade routes. Later, the cultural flowering of Nuremberg in the 15th and 16th centuries made it the center of the German Renaissance, a time of elevated art, music, and architecture that is still visible in the city today. In 1817, the city was incorporated into Middle Franconia. In 1852, there were 53,638 inhabitants, composed mainly of 46,441 Protestants and 6,616 Catholics. And like many other German lands, it would voluntarily give itself over to Prussia, later the German Empire, during the Franco-Prussian War. Nuremberg subsequently grew to become the most important industrial city of southern Germany, one of the most prosperous towns of southern Germany, and the hometown of our August Engelhart. Information on August's early life is pretty scant, difficult to find, inaccessible due to privacy legislation, simply no longer in existence. As I mentioned before, records destroyed by two kind of infamous world wars you've probably heard of. The available information we do have consists mainly of letters, recollections, and reports of people who came to know August Engelhart during his time in German New Guinea. As a result, we don't know much about his family, not even the names of his parents, who seem to have died sometime around 1900 based on allusions to them and the letters no longer being in his life. We know that his father was likely the owner of a factory that manufactured paints and varnish, so probably had some coin, and that'll come clear later that he had some family money, it seems. Guess it, but probably. Also know he must have had a number of relatives, as he frequently addressed letters to his dear relatives. One letter to Mr. and Mrs. Lorenz Sorgel ends, "Best regards, your favorite brother, August Engelhart," indicating that Mrs. Sorgel was his sister since she doesn't share his surname. He had at least one brother, Heinrich Engelhart, who appears in some letters. Heinrich would go on as the 1908 edition of Engelhart's newsletter for Sun, Tropics, and Coconuts would reveal, can't wait to start talking about this weird shit as it happens, to become the representative of the Sana Norden for Nuremberg and Bavaria. We also know that August left gymnasium, secondary school, early, having gotten what, might in modern terms be called a GED. And afterwards, he quickly began training to be a pharmacist. He would later tell one person that he was a graduate of Bonn University, where he studied chemistry in order to train as a pharmacist, but there is no record of him ever completing a doctorate or any other degree. So maybe he exaggerated or just lied. He didn't have the most conventional education for being a pharmacist. He'd later be known for having an enormous collection of books, particularly philosophy books, that he brought with him to New Guinea, brought those books and little else, and historians assume he was introduced to these thinkers in college. He was also introduced through pharmacy school to the idea of Lebensform, right, improving one's lifestyle, what we just covered above at length. But we didn't cover one important thinker who would influence Engelhart greatly. A man named Gustav Schlickenheisen. I fucking love these names. I love a good German name. Gustav Schlickenheisen! Actually, there's no N. Schlickenheisen! Who wrote Fruit and Bread, a scientific diet, in 1877. I love it. The book proposed that a frugivorous diet was the rational and natural diet for man. The book also mentioned new philosophy supposedly developing in the United States called cocovorism, which was surviving off coconuts and coconuts alone. It's unclear where exactly this popped up. No books have been found to be have the first mention of cocovorism. Sources just say it was an American trend without citing any real evidence. But nonetheless, it fascinated Engelhart. Can you fucking imagine can you imagine just living off of one food? Does that appeal to you on any level? One of any kind of food. Coconut, beef, grapes, carrots. It's fucking crazy. No culture of people has ever done that because it's a terrible idea. Also pretty funny to think about. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? And not just one meal. You can't cheat. You can't say like tacos because that has multiple foods in it. No, it can't be like spaghetti. No, just one food. You know, like in this way of Engelhardt's thinking, it would just be like just tortilla or just cojita cheese or just, you know, pork. What would keep you healthiest and happiest the longest? It's hard, right? Like 2 foods would be so much easier. Because I think in this thought experiment, you got to think about health too. You know, if I was not lactose intolerant, like maybe milk, maybe it actually would be coconut for me or soybeans, you know, good carbs and proteins all together in one substance. If I could have 2, I think it would be fish and blueberries. If I could have 3, fish, blueberries, spinach. I think I could be healthy off fish, blueberries, and spinach. Fucking bored, but healthy. 2 is so much better than 1. 3, you know, I feel like I could live a long life, you know, on like halibut, I don't know, sea bass or salmon again, and spinach, blueberries, you know, but nothing but 3, you know, still be tough. I bet your poop would look so fucking weird if you only ate 1 food. I bet August Engelhart's poop looked so strange after he lived on nothing but coconuts for years. Like, was his shit just white? Anyway, in the late 1890s, in his early 20s, Engelhardt decides for himself that he wants to see how all these ideas can be put into practice. Not just as an individual, but as a community. And there were a lot of communities of people doing some weird shit in the late 19th century and early 20th century in Germany and in America and elsewhere. You know, could a community thrive around the principles of cocovorism? Could everyone's shit be as white as virgin snow? What a paradise! What if everyone's shit smelled like coconut? Oh, what a life. Sometime before 1900, August moved to the tiny, less than 200-person town of Eckertal in Germany to join his friends, brothers Adolf and Rudolf. Juice, I love it. Adolf, they sound like fucking reindeer. Sounds like there's one reindeer and the other one's like a reindeer with a tiny mustache and a lot of hate in his heart. They were running a sanatorium named Yungborn. This place, I searched for it on YouTube to figure out how to say it. Oh, and there was this unintentionally hilarious video, archival footage, this old black and white film shot at this place. Just all these pale ass German guys of all ages. Looks like, you know, I don't know, 16 to 75, running around naked together in this nice yard. Big groups of dudes doing naked push-ups, jogging around naked, playing catch and keep way naked. Just a lot of German dick flopping around, stretching naked, standing in line naked, getting naked mud baths. Women in the video were clothed, which was a bummer because a lot of them seemed like they were pretty hot. Saw way too many dicks, 0 vaginas. But in real life, the women also would be naked at Yungborn. It seems like Yungborn was mostly about being naked, getting healthy by being naked as often as possible. Let's take a tour now of Yungborn and the health movements that would come to shape it, because this will influence August a lot because he's studying all this before he goes on his cocovorism adventure. And we'll do this not only because it's pertinent to the story and industry, it's also kind of like a 19th century wackadoodle of the week. Oh man, these sanatoriums, their sanatorium culture, it's fucking fascinating. A sanatorium from the Latin word meaning to heal, make healthy, also sanitarium, is a historic name for a specialized hospital for the treatment of specific diseases, related ailments, and convalescence. The period after an illness in which one gets better. Sanatoriums treated communicable diseases like tuberculosis, serving the dual purpose of quarantining the sick, providing them with an environment that was thought to help them get better. For example, instead of living in a crowded city, which might aggravate their illness, they could breathe fresh air and eat food straight from the countryside. But there were also sanitariums that focused on more obscure diseases like hysteria, fatigue, emotional exhaustion, to name a few. And these sanitariums usually available only to the wealthy because it was thought that only the wealthy had the time to experience something like emotional exhaustion. Everyone else, you know, they didn't have time to think about being emotionally exhausted. They had too much shit to focus on, like, keeping their jobs going so their fucking lives wouldn't crumble. These became kind of like, crosses between hospitals and country clubs, these places. For these people, sanatoriums were like huge hotels that peddled lifestyle fads. The modern day equivalent to like a Gwyneth Paltrow Goop cruise. And yes, there has been a Goop cruise. I think they're doing it again in September. I hate that I know that. It's called Goop at Sea. A lot of spa time. A lot of facials. So much massage and crystals and stones and rejuvenation and meditation and You do get to eat a lot more than coconuts. In some ways, it actually does sound kind of nice. Fucking annoying, probably people there, but nice. Some ritzy sanatoriums in Germany were the New York Nieponum, for example, an elegant and spacious palatial building. The Bodeker, operated by John and Sophia Scheel. The Light and Water Cure Institute, oh, that sounds wackadoodle as fuck, of Ludwig and Carola Staden. A sanitarium developed by Professor F.W. Reitmeyer. I don't know anything about him. I'm going to guess he wasn't a real professor. He used Neep and Prisnitz as his models. To be fair, even these ritzy places could be terrifying if you found yourself involuntarily committed to one, which I guess was possible at some of them. Like, let's say you were committed to John Harvey Kellogg's Sanitarium in the States, in Battle Creek, Michigan. The Battle Creek Sanitarium. It'll be easier to reference an American sanitarium from this era since we just have more source material available. You might recognize John Harvey's name from the cereal aisle. He was also the inventor of Kellogg's cereal, one of his many health-oriented inventions. Probably his best invention. He was an early proponent of the germ theory of disease as well, though. Outside of those and a few other good ideas, he was fucking batshit crazy. Like, really bizarre. Like many others, Battle Creek approached treatment in a holistic manner, actively promoting vegetarianism, nutrition, exercise, sunbathing, hydrotherapy, abstinence from smoking tobacco, drinking alcoholic beverages, and any sexual activity. Sounds terrible. You could also find yourself on the receiving end of one of Kellogg's many, many strange experiments in health, like the yogurt enema. Showbiz! That's how you do it in Battle Creek. Mixing some yogurt into the peanut butter yogurt. Kellogg believed that natural changes in what he called intestinal flora, aka bacteria, could be sped up by enemas, frequent enemas, seeded with favorable bacteria. You should definitely try this next time you have a tummy ache. Don't be a fucking baby. Don't get weird about it. Just do it. Go grab a box of SpongeBob Go-Gurts. You probably already have a box at home. If you got little kids, just stick one up your ass. Stop being a fucking baby and stick a Go-Gurt in your ass. Squeeze that plastic tube hard. You got to shoot up some sugary strawberry yogurt into your intestines. I'm going to have to loosen things up with lube and a butt plug first. So you got a nice gape to get shit in there. It's not going to be a sexual gape. It's going to be a health gape for your health. This actually sounds like an extra demented, advice segment from Check It Out with Dr. Steve Brule. I fucking love that Adult Swim segment so much. Kellogg, but this is real life. Kellogg also advocated for frequent use of an enema machine to cleanse your bowels with several gallons of water. That wily old cereal baron, he loved him some fancy butt play. Water enemas were followed by the administration of a pint of yogurt. Half would be eaten by your regular mouth. Other half shot up into your butt mouth. Other half administered by planting the protective germs where they are most needed and may render most effective service, according to the doctor himself. You gotta attack that digestive system from both ends. Show it no mercy. There's a full, and half a pint is a full cup of butt yogurt. So you put one full cup of yogurt into your mouth, and then another full cup squirted right up into your ass, frequently. Oh, Mr. Kellogg, you freaky motherfucker, you. I feel like shit like that is what you end up doing when you try to abstain from sexual activity at all. You just start justifying weird life hacks, like, shooting yogurt up your ass every morning for your health. Wonder if his butt yogurt had large chunks of fruit in it. And also, did his poop taste like yogurt? Yeah. Would it be safe to eat? So many questions. What if he had other unorthodox health treatments that were clearly sexual in nature that he just didn't advertise publicly? Yes, that's right. This will promote bladder health and decrease the chance of you ever getting penis cancer, which is quite common and dangerous. You're just gonna want to stick your love club into a ripe butternut squash. Gonna cut the right size hole in the rind, and off you go. Have at it, boy. Really give it a healthy go. Keep thrusting until ejaculation to make sure you've properly coated your penile skin and urethra with enough butternut enzyme to get the full health benefits. Ladies, now it's your turn to eliminate the chance of ovarian cancer. You're gonna want to peel a cucumber, stick it up your hoo-ha, stick it in your serpent socket until climax. Make sure you've done a thorough job for your health. Back to business now. It's just going to be just as weird as what I went over. Back to butt yogurt business. Kellogg believed that yogurt served to replace the intestinal flora of the bowel, creating what Kellogg claimed was a squeaky clean intestine, or a really gross yogurt-lined one. What Kellogg did not promote for your health was masturbation. He was the most against it, like aggressively against it. He thought it was bad for your health. Mr. Kellogg was a zealous lifelong foe of what he actually referred to as the solitary vice, and the vile practice. Bad, bald-headed giggle stick. An enthusiastic Seventh-day Adventist, Kellogg wrote that masturbation led to poor digestion, memory loss, impaired vision. This is all coming from jerking off. Heart disease, epilepsy, and insanity. You jerk off until you fucking go crazy. To name just a few of the insidious side effects. I literally laughed out loud, probably harder than is normal when I first read that. As someone who has been masturbating on a regular basis for over 3 decades, for my health and pleasure, I can assure you it does not lead to those side effects. If it did, I would certainly be blind, insane, epileptic. I'd have continual diarrhea, wouldn't be able to remember my own name, which I know is, of course, Pat Sajak. Do you know that Pat Sajak is retiring from Wheel of Fortune? The last show is set for June 7th. God knows what deviant shit he has planned for June 8th. Possibly some Dick Bird level of debauchery. Anyway, to break his young patients of this nasty wanking habit, Kellogg suggested procedures that range from ridiculous to barbaric, including tying up your hands so you can't actually grab Captain Winky or DJ your penis flytrap, bandaging the offending organ, literally wrapping your dick up in gauze, or my favorite, I'm not making this up. I know you probably don't trust me after the Dick Bird stuff, but putting a cage over it. A cock cage. He didn't call it that. That's what it was. The founder of Kellogg's cereals, John Harvey Kellogg, was an absolute maniac. Imagine actually putting on some kind of belt with like a wire cage compartment that you put your dick and balls in. You're not putting jeans on over that. I guess just wearing sweatpants with a constant massive bulge is your regular look. Oh, don't worry about this. No. I'm just trying not to go blind. I don't want to lose my mind. No need for alarm. It's just my cock cage. Nobody be afraid. I got my cock caged up. Can't hurt anyone. If that didn't work, Kellogg literally recommended circumcision without anesthetic. Oh my God. Quote, as the brief pain attending the operation will have a salutary effect upon the mind. He wrote that in his book, Plain Facts for Old and Young. Is that a plain fact? He was a psychopath. And we've talked about him before, actually. It's just been a long time. And I forgot how much he hated touching his dick, or just dicks in general. Where did that level of hate come from? He must have been addicted to jerking off at some point. Just unable to get anything done. His life is in ruins because he can't stop jerking off. Just whacking it 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day. Till he literally had blisters and calluses all over his shaft, open sores, and he's still trying to stroke through the pain. Then finally he's like, enough! This is no way to live! I have to find a way to stop this. I have to burn this trouser snake. I gotta put this meat puppet custard launcher in a cage where it belongs. Get in that cage, you dirty little serpent. Kellogg had an even more gruesome set of treatment for girls, including the application of pure carbolic acid to the clitoris, or in more extreme cases, if you just couldn't stop diddling, if you just loved having orgasms too much, if you just couldn't stop riding your own bicycle, he recommended surgical removal of the clitoris. He was a demon. And Kellogg was not thought of as a quack for any of this. Far from it. He had many notable patients. Hopefully they didn't do a lot of stuff themselves, including former President William Howard Taft, aviator Amelia Earhart, economist Irving Fisher, Nobel Prize-winning playwright George Bernard Shaw, founder of the Ford Motor Company, he was a nut, Henry Ford, inventor Thomas Edison, African-American activist Sojourner Truth, and many others. President Calvin Coolidge even had one of the doctor's mechanical horses in the White House, one of his other exercise inventions. No word on whether or not President Coolidge also kept his cock in a cage. Let's pretend for fun that he did. Let us think, going forward, when we think of President Coolidge, which I know is probably not often, let's just think of a deranged man screaming at his caged cock in the Oval Office. And you will stay in there until you learn to show me some goddamn respect. And then he slaps the side of the cage a few times to let his dick know he means business before pulling his over trousers back over the cage. People like Kellogg, men and women who ran the gamut from entrepreneurs to health practitioners to inventors and activists and sometimes charlatans, would open more and more sanatoriums to the public that was eager to solve any and all of their problems. And the ones that offered the more basic cures, good diet, baths, plenty of time to relax, no cock cages, no clitoral removal, they became a haven for the well-to-do, with advertising specifically aimed at drawing an upscale crowd. Advertising, as we'll see, too, with August Engelhart, was just as important as actually owning and maintaining these facilities. In the 1890s, a publisher named Benedict Lust would put out lists of top healing centers. Soon, Lust would also become Adolf Joost's publisher for his works, in his advertisements for Yungborn. In this sanatorium and model institution for pure natural lifestyle, as the advertisement went, nudism and vegetarianism were regarded as the fundamental pillars of a healthier lifestyle. According to these ads, the mission of Yungborn was to cure or relieve, as much as possible, chronic patients of all kinds, by the application of the natural method of healing, employing only air, light, water, electricity, magnetism, hypnotism, massage, gymnastics, and rational diet. And the natural method of nudity was also worked into there. Naked massage. So naked massage and nude gymnastics. I'm listening. Could be a nightmare to see, could be heaven. All depends on who's doing a naked floor routine. Nudism and hypnotism sounds dangerous. There were no drugs found at the Yungborn. Bummer. Sounds like it would be a great place to be high. Lust or juiced, it's unclear from sources who exactly was writing this, stated, "We do not believe in curing one disease by producing another. We remove the cause of the disease and so get rid of it entirely." Not sure why he felt, or why they, whoever wrote that felt the need to state that part. Seems obvious. Just so you know, unlike our competition, when we cure one disease, we don't give you another one. Fresh air, plenty of exercise, outdoors, sunshine, a vegetarian diet of fresh vegetables and fruits, nuts, dairy, and farm-fresh eggs were the main tenets of life at Yungborn. Guests had other dietary options, such as the frugivorous diet, advocated by a writer named Louis Kuhn, the raw food diet, and also complete fasting. Oh, fun. Another key element of natural healing available at Yungborn was the focus on removing from the body its toxic impurities. Advertisement stated, "The depurative organs, and these alone, must do all the work of purification, and there are ways to aid them which have no bad effects. Spring fever, that tired feeling, and other spring ailments that have been brought on by a lack of exercise, stuffed rooms, and a wrong diet during the winter months, are also amenable to quick treatment and cure at this time." I think that tired feeling is spring fever, brought on by pollen. A little Claritin should knock it right out. Maybe add some Flonase if you need an extra boost. So how would you help your body most effectively get rid of your internal impurities? By bathing, of course. That's right, the same act that got you squeaky clean on the outside could also get you squeaky clean on the inside, if you believe these fools. There were so many baths at Yungborn, so much rub-a-dub-dub, and so many tubs. You might not come out on the other side any healthier, but God, you're going to be so fucking clean. Every imaginable bath could be experienced at Yungborn. Full bath, half bath, trunk bath, hip bath, whatever the hell that is. Partial bath, plus full vapor or steam bath, steam jets and steam compresses. Cold, wet sheet compresses, cold wraps, and every variation were available. As well as the signature treatment used by health advocate Father Sebastian Neep. This guy's a fucking con artist. The water treatment, aka the gush. You gotta get to gushing, which I don't think is the same as squirting. Neep credited the gush for saving his life. Like Benedict Lust, Neep, as a young man, contracted tuberculosis at a time when that disease was synonymous with certain death. His salvation, according to him, was a little book on a cold water cure written by Dr. Johann Sigmund Hahn, which gave him enough guidance to self-administer water therapies and successfully treat and cure his tuberculosis, allegedly. Neep describes the importance of that book in the following way. The little volume was at first the straw to which... No, that's annoying. To which I clung as a drowning man. It became in a short time the staff supporting the invalid. Today it is the lifeboat, which was sent to me by a merciful providence in the nick of time, providence with a capital P, in the hour of extreme peril. And with that in mind, he would develop the gush. So what exactly is the gush? Get ready for an anticlimactic definition. It's pretty much what it sounds like. But it's pathetic. It's just a gush of water. It's just a gush of cold water applied to the body. It's basically just being sprayed with a garden hose. Gushes, but it sounds fancy. Gushes were administered to specific body parts, depending on pathology. For example, this is their terms. The arm douche was indicated when the arm was powerless, caused by paralysis or rheumatism, according to... Oh, is your arm paralyzed? Let me give you an arm douche. That should restore it to full function. Another neat treatment was the hip douche. Is this guy laughing privately about all this stuff? In taking the first hip douche, a patient would experience water applied to the back of the feet and very gradually ascending to the knees. The stream of water would gradually raise from the knees to the hips to the middle of the back. However, Neep emphatically cautioned that, quote, the douching from below to above must be conducted very slowly. You don't fucking speed douche. You'll ruin it. You'll end up completely paralyzed. Water was not applied haphazardly, but methodically, such that, quote, the water must flow equally over the hip, so that it looks as though covered with a sheet of glass. Can you just fucking dive into a pool? When you get out that garden hose, you can't just spray someone down all willy-nilly and expect to cure their arthritis. Get out of here. This isn't horseplay. This isn't fun and games. This is very scientific treatment. You need to wear glasses so you look studious. You have a sense of authority. You gotta probably should put on a lab coat and carry a clipboard in the hand, not holding the garden hose. For the hip douche, 6 to 10 watering cans would be used, or about 4 gallons of water. Doesn't sound like much. For weak persons, 1 can of water could be sufficient. NEEP would use up to 10 cans of water in treatments to counter obesity. Spray that cellulite right off, baby. I feel so stupid not thinking of how to get rid of some belly fat this way before. I've been exercising like a madman this year. But why? I could get all toned up in the shower, never break a sweat or feel short of breath. I just douched my water right. Thank you, Dr. Neep. This is so incredibly stupid. I can see why this never really caught on. This makes me think, what dumb shit are we doing today that we're going to look back on 100 years from now and wonder what the fuck anyone was thinking? Looking at you and all the nonsense supplements you used to sell, Alex Jones. Take your lung cleanse spray and your Prostagard pills and shove them up your ass with a cup of yogurt. All that being said, there is a website, sadly a very well-maintained, nice-looking website, active right now, neep.com, that is based on this bullshit. KNEIPP.com if you're curious. From the About Us section of the website, to this day, water applications form the basis of NEEP therapy because they are so easy to use. Well, yeah, it's just you fucking just dump some water on yourself. They are also suitable for use at home in most cases. A shower hose, for example, from which the shower head is unscrewed, is suitable. So my garden hose bullshit, spot on. It actually is that dumb. Despite, you just do the stuff at your house, they sell a lot of stuff. Hey, are you feeling stressed? Are you really stressed out? Are you dreading having some hard talks with yourself about, who knows, romantic or career choices? Are you needing to work harder on relationships of some kind? You wondering how you're going to pay some kind of outrageous medical bill? Will you have to pick up a third job to help with your stress? No, fuck no. Just go to neep.com and pick up their Goodbye Stress Rosemary and Water Mint Aromatherapy Bubble Bath. $16 for 13.5 ounces. Those stressful medical bills will just be rosemarried and minted right on down the drain. Goodbye, stress. From Neep, fucking over the desperate and or the dumb since 1891. Following in the vein of Neep, there were an abundance of water therapies at Yungborn. Baths, douches, gushes galore, so much gushing and water douching and yogurt gaping. So much shit for your health. Yungborn offered even more, like Adolf Just's Earth Cure compresses, earth baths, that's a fancy way of saying just laying in some mud, barefoot walking, and sleeping outdoors on the earth to expose the body to the earth's magnetic current. Those were some cornerstone treatments. Sleeping on the ground, right? Expose your body to earth's healing magnetic current for your health. Actually, based on the archival footage, I watched this fancy treatment, kind of like the gush, that could be easily done in your yard, right? You just dig a grave-sized hole, but 2 feet deep instead of 6, spray it down with your therapy hose, get all the dirt muddy, and lay in the mud, and that's it. Voila! You're cured. You're cured of whatever ails you. You're getting magnetic earth current from your earth bath. Many relished their so-called earth baths and their healing magnetism. Benedict Lusk claimed that earth baths were probably taken by every patient. Okay, cool. Visitors to Yungborn were encouraged to sleep on the ground to capitalize on the Earth's, like I said, electrical forces, according to Benedict Lust. People would marvel at how deeply rested they felt after sleeping on the Earth. Oh, yeah. No, the placebo effect is very real. So is the social pressure to tell someone exactly what they want to hear. Yungborn also prescribed nudism. Groundbreaking. Your clothes are stressing you out, lady. Take off that blouse. Come on, toss that bra out of here. Let those titties fly free. Get that dress off. Ride your own bicycle around the yard. Air that silly old puss out. Get some mud on it when you take your dirt nap or earth bath or whatever. Recalibrate it with some earth magnets. Like in other sanatoriums, light and air baths were conducted in the open air or under electric lights. But unlike in other sanatoriums, nude bathing was a daily activity at Yungborn, with one session in the morning. I love how they describe it as a session, like it's an important medical treatment. I'm having a session right now. You're just standing in the fucking yard naked in the mud. I know. It's my mud nude sun session for my arthritis. You have a session in the morning, another session in the afternoon, And then you'd have bathing in some brooks and swimming areas after that for all your treatment. John Harvey Kellogg would have lost his fucking mind at Yungborn. Oh my God. He'd have put his dick in a cock cage faster than you can say clitoral removal. Men and women had their own secluded and private areas at Yungborn called the Air and Light Park for enjoying air, because that's a thing that only they offered was like this certain kind of air. And they had a special kind of sun that came into their facility. Oh, yeah. They wrote, each park is within a pine-boarded stockade 10 feet high, and no casual visitor is allowed within the sacred precincts. This was in the New York Press. Separate sections of the 60 acres are set apart for the sexes, where the greatest freedom from dress restrictions may be enjoyed. That's a fancy way of saying just being nude. The greatest freedom from dress restrictions. Yeah, just be naked. Guests were even encouraged to remain nude while they slept. I like that, actually. I sleep naked. Not sure how much it affects my health, but I do think it keeps my balls from smelling. It gets sweaty down there. You have to ventilate. The guests at Yungborn live and sleep in charming and friendly little air and lighthouses, which are not huts and stand fully in the open air, surrounded by shrubs and trees. Continue with that New York Press description. These air and lighthouses were constructed with 2 rooms, 1 room for each guest, so that each room is fully free at 3 sides. They are provided at all sides with blinds, windows, air valves, which can at every time be kept open or closed. According to Adolf Use, right? I love, like, there's an air valve. Like, that's this fancy thing. Well, we have this special health air valve. You can just open it up and you'll let health air in from outside. You kind of like opening a window? Seems like all this made Yungborn very touchy as in a very erotic place. Hail, Lucifina. Massage was freely available with attendants at the service of the patients for purpose of, quote, rubbing and stroking the body by way of applying and transferring human curative power and animal heat in the most natural and effective manner, according to Benedict Lust. Mr. Lust, indeed! No dicks getting wrapped up in Kellogg's bologna bandages at his sanatorium. Another treatment practiced on women, making this all the more sexual, was the Thur-Brandt gynecological massage, which helped relieve pelvic displacements and inflammation. Is your pelvis inflamed? Let me massage your vagina. In this, the doctor or therapist or random pervert would put his or her finger in the vagina of the patient. And simultaneously, this wasn't sex though, no. And simultaneously would massage the uterus from the outside with the other hand. All the while providing, quote, vibratory shaking. Yeah. Nah, that sounds hot. I'm sure that this treatment never, ever led to flat out fucking or sucking. No way. Everything was above board here. Just doing a little hysterical finger blasting, my lady. Just testing the bicycle's brakes. Got to make sure they work. Got to make sure everything's up to code. Basically, focused ostensibly on health, Yungborn was a pretty sexy place to live. And August Engelhart, right? He's a part of all of this. He's witnessing this. He's participating in all this. He's at Yungborn. His friends are helping run it. Looking at all that, it wasn't exactly crazy for him to think that people might also go for cocovorism. I mean, look at what they were already doing with the hysterical finger blasting. While at Yungborn, August first preached about cocovorism, and he had a good reception for it. So much so it gave him the confidence to give talks on cocovorism outside the confines of Yungborn to the general public in Leipzig and Nuremberg, and you can probably imagine how that went. Not well. He was ridiculed, he was mocked and laughed at, and I imagine pointed at. It seemed only the people who were already interested in getting pretty unorthodox with their health regimens were interested in hearing him out. So August reasoned, in order to properly sell people on his new coconut-centric lifestyle, he would need to open his own sanatorium. Except August Engelhart didn't really want to own a sanatorium, whatever. He didn't want to prescribe a lifestyle for the sick. He wanted to prescribe a lifestyle for everyone. He wanted everyone to be part of his coconut club. And now that he was thinking about that, he started writing. As early as 1898, together with August Bethman, his new friend he had met at Yungborn, and a self-proclaimed nature writer who would later join him in New Guinea, Engelhart published a book called A Carefree Future, The New Gospel. It would become the blueprint for the Sana Norden, its manifesto of sorts, and a passage of this literary, highly valued book read. The cocovoristic sunman is man as he should be, living in harmony with God. He receives everything straight from the hands of his god, the kind-hearted sun. He stores solar power with his eyes, hair, and skin. He thus needs only a small amount of oxygen. Gentle air makes light, makes alive. Agile, elastically. The stay under, the permanent, bright sky embedded into an evergreen flora is most suited for mankind, especially for intellectual activities. The coconut is the philosopher's stone. What are universities compared with such a lifestyle? Yeah, why go to school when you could fucking just eat a coconut? It's the same. You learn more eating a coconut and being out of the sun than from any books you could ever read. What was that? Was that a weird poem? Was that the musings of someone with a head full of acid? No, it was August Engelhart sharing his coconut and sun-laden vision for the future development of mankind. If only man could survive long-term off coconuts alone. We'll see how an attempt to do so worked out for August Engelhart himself. But first, let's take a moment to look at some nutritional science. Coconuts are a pretty decent source of calories, if that's what you're looking for. 283 calories per cup of shredded coconut meat. The fruit or meat of a medium coconut contains about 1,400 calories. On a 2,000-calorie diet, you don't have to eat about 1.5 coconuts a day. In 1,996 calories of coconut, about as much as an average person would need in a day, you'd get 164 grams of fat, 131 grams of carbohydrates, 27 grams of protein, and you'd have 7.5 cups of water from the coconut milk. Both essential fatty acids are deficient in coconut shell, with omega-6 barely being within a minimally accepted range, omega-3 completely absent. Very long term, that'll be a problem. Body fat breakdown can supply these essential fatty acids for quite a while, assuming your diet wasn't deficient in either before you found yourself in a coconut-only fucking crazy town environment, like being stranded on an island. Total protein is also too low, but it's high enough that, you would probably die if you were stranded of something else before it became a fatal problem. You could also increase caloric intake to around 3,500, 4,000 calories per day, which is probably what would be required of, you anyways if you were trying to survive on an island. And then your protein requirements would be minimally met. All essential amino acids are very close to the WHO recommendations, even at only 27 grams of protein, and all are easily exceeded at a 3,500 to 4,000 calorie intake. It is a pretty, amazing food. Calcium and zinc are high enough that they probably won't be an issue before something else is. Plus, neither one is really critical for short-term survival, only long-term health. Your body can store years of B12, so assuming your diet wasn't only coconuts or otherwise deficient before you got stranded, that wouldn't be the first problem to arise either. The liver stores about 1 to 2 years worth of vitamin A. Did not know that. So assuming you weren't deficient to begin with, vitamin A deficiency probably not going to be an issue for some time. That leaves only vitamin E, vitamin K, niacin, and pantothenic acid as likely candidates for the first life-threatening deficiencies you'd have to face. Niacin deficiency can lead to pellagra in 4 to 5 years, and pellagra not pretty. Pellagra symptoms include inflamed skin, diarrhea, dementia, sores in the mouth. Areas of the skin exposed to either sunlight or friction are typically affected first. Over time, affected skin may become darker, stiffen, peel, and bleed. In terms of other nutrients, pantothenic acid deficiency is extremely rare, and the complications associated with it are not life-threatening. Gut bacteria can also synthesize their own pantothenic acid, though the amount of this pantothenic acid that humans can actually absorb is unknown. You also get a notable amount of vitamin K from gut fermentation, but it's unclear if coconuts alone can provide the necessary precursors required to facilitate and or maximize that synthesis. Symptomatic vitamin E deficiency is unlikely in adults, so short-term survival probably would not be compromised from a lack of vitamin E. All things considered, you probably wouldn't begin to show symptomatic deficiency for at least 6 months, and that would be from lack of B vitamins in general. If you could find a source of B vitamins, any type of meat, you would greatly increase your chance of long-term survival. If you did not get enough vitamin B, you can and likely will eventually encounter very severe symptoms like memory loss, depression, skin infections, rheumatoid arthritis, brain damage, mouth ulcers, muscle fatigue, and a bunch of other terrible shit before heart failure kills you. We do need a variety of nutrients to stay alive long term. But August Engelhart did not know that. For him, it was coconuts or bust. So where was August to form his coconut community, his cocoa community? Originally he thought about Germany, but then the Yungborn facilities were shut down. Nudism at the time in Germany, as it turns out, was considered illegal and immoral. And August's friend Adolf Just will be convicted of improper activities as a naturopath and sent to prison. Now Engelhardt starts setting his sights further afield. In early 1902, some sources say the summer, our main source says early 1902. After serving for 1 year in the 14th Infantry Regiment, now 26-year-old August Engelhart leaves Germany for New Guinea, ready to make his ideas a reality. Actually, he didn't only leave, to chase his dreams. Right after Adolf Just was sent to prison for charlatanism, he was worried about that being, happening to him as well. Before he left, he still needed to prepare. For one thing, he needed resources to buy land for his commune. And he also had to make some people believe in him back in Europe, who would be recruiting for him then when he left for his, coconut paradise. He needed some apostles, some coconut apostles, some cocoa apostles, some apostle nuts, something like that. His first devotees would be Heinrich Engelhardt, his brother, Alwin Schmeider, and Alexander Frodrich from Vienna. Those three men would help publish August's letters, leaflets, and advertisements, as well as sell his books when he was abroad. With that, August could lay the foundation for his Brotherhood of Sun Worshippers, which he now named the Order of the Sun, Equatorial Settlers Association. So how was all this, the adventure to come, going to be financed? This is such a crazy plan. It's unclear, but we assume that August probably inherited money from his parents. It doesn't seem that he ever worked, other than writing, and his writing was never remotely popular, so it couldn't have been that lucrative. This whole harebrained coconut plan of his reeks of trust fund money. Somehow, again, probably with his parents' money or the funds from some other relative, August manages to travel from Germany all the way to the South Pacific. He'd have spent an enormous sum of money simply packing up and shipping his library, which he did. He left some pieces of furniture, some other effects in Nuremberg. In early 1902, he wrote a letter to Mr. and Mrs. Sorgel, those folks who historians think were probably his sister and brother-in-law, saying, I will not return home in the next 2 to 3 years. Well, he'll end up being gone a lot longer than that. In the summer of 1902, Engelhardt arrives at Herberto, now Kokopo, in German New Guinea. Herberto, named after the eldest son of Otto von Bismarck, was the headquarters of the German colonial administration and seat of the German governor at that time. And so it was a natural starting point for every German coming to German New Guinea. Still, it wasn't much. This is what would have typically been experienced by a new European visitor arriving at the seat of the colonial administration in German New Guinea. Coming along the east coast of New Britain, second largest island in the South Seas, and through St. George's Channel, the steamer would enter Blanche Bay, Long Bay on the Gazelle Peninsula, named after the German survey ship SMS Gazelle, which had surveyed the area in 1874. On board, the passengers standing out on the deck would be greeted by the intense green of the rainforest, the glittering sea in the bay, and the hot tropical sun. On reaching the entrance to the bay, it would feel as if the sun's intensity had suddenly increased, as the fresh sea breeze would give way to the hot and humid climate of the tropics. Within a few minutes, people would begin to sweat. Men would start taking off their hats to wipe their faces. Ladies would begin to fan themselves. The temperature here varies throughout the day from about 77 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year. Doesn't vary much. The record low is 65 degrees, but the average low is 78 degrees. Record high is 90, but average high is 94 degrees. So it usually only varies by about, 7-8 degrees year-round, throughout the day and night. All seasons. There really isn't seasons here. The humidity varies a lot less. It's right around 78% all day, every day, year-round. With that temperature and heat combo, it's basically going to feel like it's between 80 and 100 degrees every single fucking day, without exception. Or between 27 and 38 degrees Celsius. It's sweaty. It's fucking sweaty ball sack weather just all the time, day and night. Standing on the landing stage, waiting for the passengers to disembark, are half-naked native porters, their skin shimmering with the sweat and the sunlight, a number of Europeans in their white tropical suits. These European residents of the colony would always gather when a ship arrives, as its arrival was a social event. Also, many would be, waiting for a new employer or other business interests, perhaps a loved one to arrive. And damn near everyone would be hoping that the unloading of the mailbags meant receiving letters from loved ones or correspondences from, business, their business relationships. And if not, then they at the least would want to hear news and gossip from home or elsewhere in the world. This group of Europeans would also be thirsty for the lively pleasures the ship was bringing, such as good cold German beer and fresh meat. Some might even be so excited that they might row canoes out to the ship as it entered the bay, climbing aboard to stand on deck with a cold bottle of beer in hand. Soon joined by other European residents, the travelers would head to join the captain and his officers in the dining room, if the ship had one, in a little send-off celebration. There'd be a friendly chat and, of course, more cold drinks they'd missed for so long. Normally, there'd be the chance to sink one's teeth into a good piece of meat, which otherwise was hard to come by in the colony outside of fish. As for the pleasures of the colony, that was about it. The main building in the small town of Herberto was the post office, built in June of 1890, just 12 years earlier. That says a lot when the coolest building in your entire colony is the fucking post office. There was also a small 2-story hotel with a wide porch, smattering of private plantations surrounded it. And that was about it. Development of New Guinea was slow because the German government didn't even formally take over the area until April 1st, 1899, once it became clear that private sources would not be able to finance the necessary development within the colony, as they were focused on trying to turn over a profit for themselves with their plantations. Those private sources were plantation owners, Germans who oversaw the production and sale of copra and hoped to make great fortunes on the remote Pacific island. One of those people was Emma Forsyth, known as Queen Emma in Herberto. She ran the Forsyth Company, the premier plantation on the island. She won't really come up again in today's main story. I think she gets referenced once towards the end, but she's an interesting figure, and her life is worth just a slight diversion. Born Emma Coe, September 26, 1860, her father was an American commercial agent who moved to Samoa in 1838, whereupon he married, according to one account, 6 different Samoan women, and then fathered 18 children. Emma was one of those kids, allegedly the daughter of a Samoan princess. She'd then grown up in the U.S. with relatives after the age of 11, then returned to Samoa at the age of 19, where her father, now a consul, married her off to James Forsyth, a ship's officer. Forsyth established multiple trading posts before he was lost at sea, and Emma continued where he left off. When Colonel Steinberger, a representative of American President Ulysses S. Grant, arrived in Samoa, she became his personal assistant. And after her father got deported after falling out of favor with local Samoans, Emma left Samoa with her lover, James Farrell, and the two headed to the islands of New Britain and New Ireland to trade copra with the local population for beads, tobacco, knives, and mirrors. Emma and James Farrell would even help people who got swindled by the French Marquis de Reyes, who had said he would set up a colony for them at the southeastern tip of New Ireland in exchange for their life savings. When the 4 ships carrying the would-be colonists, about 500 people, arrived at the island to find nothing waiting for them, Emma and James arranged for them to move to Australia, while de Reyes was tried and found guilty of fraud in France. In 1881, Emma became interested in land around the Gazelle Peninsula of New Britain and decided to break things off with James Farrell, who continued trading. Emma bought the land from the local chiefs, and with the assistance of her Danish brother-in-law, Richard Parkinson, even down in the South Pacific in the late 19th century, we'll find a dick, and she set up a large coconut and cocoa plantation around Herberto. There, she would become well known for her charismatic personality, extravagant parties, which she sometimes organized with the help of her nieces. It was during this period she became known as the Queen of New Guinea, and Emma was the person to talk to if you had any business interests in this area. She ran the shit. And on September 15th, 1902, some sources say October 2nd, with Emma's help, August Engelhart becomes the new owner of Cabacan, the southwestern island of the Duke of York group of islands, north of Herberto. Some sources say he was just the owner of a plantation on Cabacan, not the whole island. Either way, he paid around 41,000 marks. According to random historical currency exchange and inflation calculators online, that's about $350,000 today, but that's what they say. I don't believe that. However much it was enough to buy a bunch of land in a new colony where almost no other Germans wanted to live. He began making his home there October 2nd as the only white person amongst 40 indigenous Melanesian and Solomon Island workers. Cabacan was 28 miles from Herberto. His property was 185 acres. The other 123 acres of the island were protected or were a protected nature reservation inhabited by natives. Cabacan had been cultivated by the Forsyth Company since the 1880s, meaning that the coconut trees that Engelhart craved had already been planted there. I mean, had they not been, I'm sure he would have not bought that plantation. There was also a jetty where he could greet visitors, as well as a large shed where he could store copra as it dried. The only additional building was one Engelhart built himself, a little wooden hut built according to letters in a European style. And that's all we know about it. We don't know how big it was. It just was a little hut built in a European style. It definitely didn't have electricity or plumbing or AC, no fans, no refrigerator, no stove, no microwave, no pantry full of snacks. Just a little hut with a roof that, kept shit dry when it rained. next to the beach, the ocean, jungle, and fuck ton of coconuts. His little hut mainly housed Engelhardt's library, so it's nice he had something to read. Pretty Spartan living conditions. Engelhardt himself would spend most of his time running around naked and living exclusively on a diet of fruit. Above all, coconuts. Since he didn't have to work, as the island laborers took care of that, it seems he had plenty of time on his hands. In a letter to a friend on June 17th, 1903, he would describe his daily life like this. At 5:30 a.m., my bell calls me. Then it is up. The laborers call in. Their tasks are allocated, and me, I get ready to write. Indeed, he would use his time to set down his philosophy in writing, especially his philosophy about the coconut and the sun. In Engelhardt's way of thinking, the coconut was, as I mentioned, the philosopher's stone, the panacea, which makes man what he once was and what he has to be again, the image of God. Very high praise for a fruity tree nut. Engelhardt maintained that the power of God was to be found in the sun, and by exposing one's body to it and existing on a diet of fruits found growing close to it, man could live in harmony with God. And also, depending on the amount of melanin in your skin, be sunburned as fuck. He started off on his island as a fructivore, but soon after developing some sort of ulcer on his right leg, clearly brought on by a shitty banana or mango, not a coconut, he adopted a coconut mono diet. He blamed other nasty-ass tropical fruits, subpar fruits, devil's fruits for his condition. So we just got a man, a shack, some books, some paper and pens, a lot of coconuts. What else do you need? Engelhardt claimed he did start to feel better after beginning to eat only coconuts, but he was lonely. In a letter written to a friend in Germany in 1903, Engelhardt stated that after 13 months alone, without a soul to confide with, without people around me who understand, I am sick of being alone. He desperately invited his friend and family to come stay with him in Cabacan for, quote, at least a year. Presumably that offer was turned down. I bet it reeks of desperation. Dearest Adolf, you must come visit. I have nothing but coconuts for company, but everything else is perfect. The sun is grand. The weather is... it's pretty neat, and I never have to do laundry or dishes. So come stay. Stay for at least a year. You have to stay for at least a year. We could be naked together, eating coconuts by the ocean. We could do that every day for at least a year, and read books and write things. There's quite literally nothing else to do, but we'd have fun for at least a year. Engelhardt did consider leaving Cabacan and giving up on his dream forever, but before long his situation would change. His old buddy August Bethman, who had been preaching the good word back in Germany, had found two friends that now agreed to join the Sana Norden. In December of 1903, the first coconut disciple arrives on the island. The first cocosciple. The first discynut. It was Heinrich Alkens. There's going to be a lot of Heinrichs in the story. A young man who, with his strong build, blonde hair, and blue eyes, looked like the German archetype that would soon become very popular with a certain political movement in Germany over the next couple of decades. He was athletic and well-educated, but then after only 6 weeks on the island, he died. He overdosed on coconuts. Kind of. He tried to replicate Kellogg's yogurt enema health regimen, but with the coconut. He ate coconuts while shoving an equal amount of coconut up his ass, and eventually his stomach coco-sploded. No, it's unclear what led Heinrich to his doom. January 27th, 1904, but a German medical officer would speculate that Heinrich had, quote, been infected with malaria fever during his short stay, which he naturally did not treat with quinine, probably due to the impact of the sun. Right after his arrival, he went around barefoot and naked, which had a damaging effect on his cerebral membrane. So he got malaria, and then he ran around naked like a maniac until he had a heat stroke. Once again, August Engelhart was alone. But after toughing it out some more, like he's fucking Tom Hanks in Castaway, except not actually trapped, he could leave, things began to look up. December 24th, 1904, Engelhart reports to friends back in Germany that he'd been joined by another adventurer, Max Lützow, who was kind of a celebrity back in Germany. To friends, Engelhart bragged about the director of music, piano, and violin virtuoso, last in Naples, Palermo, Tunis, Cairo, who was now sharing Cabacan with him. How delightful. Ought to be grand. It'll be a peach Melba night. I bet he prepared a lavish welcome to Cabacan meal with him. So many fucking coconuts. Coconut salad, but just eat the coconut, of course. Mashed coconut, slightly salted coconut, a.k.a. coconut dipped into the ocean, unsalted coconut, slightly more ripe than a regular coconut, a little bit less ripe coconut. It'd be a real coca cornucopia of cocoa culinary delights. August gleefully speculated that more people would soon come once he realized that cities were, quote, rocky graveyards. Okay, and that living naked the whole time on an almost exclusive set of fruits, and above all, the holy coconut, was the way to go. Okay, all right, buddy. So why was this semi-celebrity there with him? In the words of Albert Hoffman, a missionary who knew him, Lutzow was, quote, a musical genius who in his younger days had already, wherever he performed, earned praise and unbelievable sums of money through his marvelous playing. This was how he was able to indulge in all sorts of excesses. Nothing human was unknown to him. His restless spirit had led him through all the capitals of Europe. In Italy, his body, harmed by his excessive lifestyle, finally broke down, and he was brought to a German hospital, where he had to rest for a long time. At this hospital, he got a hold of the theosophical writings of Dr. Engelhart, who was not a doctor, which he ravenously read. In these writings, he thought he had found what his soul had thirsted for. Once he was on Cabacon, together with his son brothers. Then he would be able to find music freed from the material world. Okay. The exchange worked out well for Engelhardt, who now had the ideal advocate for the lifestyle of the Sonnenorden. Max seemed to like it too. After 2 months, he wrote in a journal. He wrote to a journal, in Leipzig, claiming, "Cabacon has exceeded all my expectations. I can think of no place more suitable than this one for vegetarians. I am absolutely delighted by Cabacon, and never had I expected to find such a place on this earth which could satisfy my idealistic requirements so perfectly. I cannot think of any better living conditions." Thanks to this, the Sonnenorden now grew. Everyone went fucking coconut crazy. Okay, maybe not everyone, but definitely like a few dozen people over several years would go coconuts. According to some reports, it drew more than 30 followers at its height. But that may have included visitors who just came by to fucking people watch. Lutzow and Engelhardt became something of an advertising power duo now, with postcards featuring pictures of them and the phrase, "What do you think, my dear? Shall we also settle here?" being circulated back in Germany. Spending more of that trust fund cash, investing it so wisely. But then in early 1905, Max Lutzow falls seriously ill. Weird. He eventually decides to visit the German colonial hospital at Herberto, which lay 22 miles away by sea. But on his way there, the boat of the Methodist mission on which he was traveling got caught in a strong northwesterly storm, and despite the fact that his Melanesian companion succeeded in bringing the boat to land to safety on the small island of Lamas, Lutzow died there of exhaustion. And I do have to wonder if his exhaustion was brought on by malnutrition. His death gave an ironic confirmation to one letter he had published in Germany, in which he had said, "I have the firm belief that everyone who comes here will stay." Yeah, a lot of people will stay there, a lot of people die. In the months that followed, other members of the Sonnenorden started getting cold feet. One of them was Heinrich Conrad, a furrier from Metz who had arrived in July of 1905. He also came down with malaria in November, like the first guy. And when he eventually recovered, he decided to hightail it back to Germany in December. Another was Wilhelm Hein from Berlin, who died in January 1906 when his boat capsized. A lot of these guys, too weak to swim. So exhausted from nothing but, all that fruit. Yet another was an Englishman by the name of H.M. Robson from Newcastle. He'd later come back to visit, but each time he'd come back to visit, he would find the island less populated than his previous visit. And it was never that populated. Then, just when it seemed that the Sonnenorden had finally sunk to uncomebackable lows, more new members arrive. Oh, it's a Coco comeback! They were led by who else but August Bethman, who arrived on the island with his fiancée, Anna Schwab. The three quickly put their heads together to figure out how to draw more colonists and decided to found a publishing company called Reformerlag Engelhardt and Bethman. Seems like a tough location to run a publishing company from. A bit remote. I'm guessing they were going to base it back in Germany. They also increased their advertising campaign, stressing that the coconut was the only essential means of sustenance, and donated copies of their cocovorism literature to school libraries. Oh, those lucky kids. The further Engelhardt's philosophy developed, the more dramatic was his testimony. He claimed now that the noblest organ of the human body was the brain because it was nearest to the sun, and he denied that such a noble part of the body could possibly receive its strength from the deep and dirty digestive tract. He thinks the brain is powered exclusively by sunlight. Our scalp is just a solar panel that powers our brain. That's the kind of thing that someone would think if they had been, living on an island for years, mostly alone, running around naked, eating only coconuts. How much is he starting to fucking hate the taste of coconuts, by the way? Who could eat the exact same thing for years? He suggested instead that the brain receives its energy from hair roots, which in turn are powered by sunlight. Okay? So does that mean that like bald guys are smarter than everyone else, right? So much direct mind-powering sun fuel feeding their cocodomes. Not sure how that advertising went over, but things are somehow still going well. Apparently, the son of Norden was becoming kind of well known. The New York Times actually wrote an article about it in early 1906 that went in part, his plan was to have his sect worship the sun. He held that man was a tropical animal, not intended to live in caves called houses, but to wander as Adam did, with the sun beating upon him all day and the dews of heaven for a mantle at night. Living such a life, he believed that the healing and curative powers of the sun would in time render a man so immune that sickness could be overcome. Morale was up for the followers, too. On April 21st, 1906, follower August Bethmann wrote this bizarre letter to friends and family back in Germany. This is bizarre. I feel like I need music for this one. I went to the eternally sunny tropics because I am a friend of light equals warmth equals life. An enemy of night equals cold equals death. Cabacan is a place in the sun in the best sense of the term. Our tricolor is always gold equals sun. Always blue equals sky and ocean. Always green equals tropical vegetation. In this euphoric, clearly his fucking mind is breaking down from improper nutrition letter, Bethmann expressed no plans for his return and said he had rejected a lot of friendly invitations of like-minded friends from Switzerland, Italy, and Corsica to join them. He also emphasized his point of view that a truly natural life outside the tropics is impossible. It remains patchy and piecemeal, something only in half measure. In another letter sent in the summer of that year, Bethmann refuted some claims that the Cabacan settlers lived like Robinson Crusoe, the character from the Daniel Defoe novel. He wrote, I'm going to back this up and start it again here. Wellman's Carl, one of the numerous grandchildren of Councillor W., naively remarked, I live like Robinson Crusoe. Carl's not completely wrong. Explaining, I will add, compared with me, Robinson was a demanding young man, a fusspot. Ooh, he's a fusspot. He had goats, was a parasite to the animal. I reject that. He's not a fusspot. He planted corn, had to grind it, and bake what was ground and so on. As a nut eater, I have no need for the preparation of bread. Robinson held his gun in high regard. In short, I am superior to the famous Robinson with regard to simplicity, food, and clothing. Later, he rejected the idea that the group was potentially in danger. You are worried about my safety? There is some justification for it, because some explorers of the South Seas liked to scare the ordinary Europeans with reports of cannibalism. Certainly it is true, some years ago 2 missionaries were eaten, and indeed it occurred on our neighboring island of Karawara. But the highly cultivated, nervous, and trigger-happy white, the so-called pioneer, may finally make himself a mental note. The behavior of the natives is dependent on the behavior of the whites. They have sinned a lot in the past with their barbaric and brutal ways, and they have quite a record. Despite this glass half full, no, all the way full, overflowing with joy tone. Actual life at Cabacan was not going great. August Engelhart himself had become seriously ill by 1906. Of course he has. He's been living either only on coconuts for about 3 years, or, a little bit of fruit, a different fruit, and coconuts for a few months, and then only coconuts. In January, February of 1906, he'd written out a will. I'd say he's not doing good, which he left with the Imperial District Court at Herberto. Engelhart stood a little over 5'4", and now weighed 86 pounds. He also had a full-body rash, especially not great for a nudist. And the now 30-year-old was suffering from a terrible case of scabies. He looked like a dude who'd been stranded on a desert island, because he kind of was, except, he did it to himself, and he could leave. And he actually looked worse than what I just described. This is how one follower, a man named William Bradkey, would describe him in a 1906 letter. Dear Mr. K, departed from Sydney on the 19th of March of last year and arrived on the 27th of March on Cabacan. Engelhardt looked bad, emaciated, with large leg wounds, gout in his fingers, rash on his arms and buttocks, fever attacks in a 3-day cycle. He made little impression of a healthy cocovore, bursting with energy. Cocovore, I love that. I became the same after staying 4 weeks. caused by the many mosquitoes and sandfly bites, and partially due to all the nut eating. Wounds on legs and ankles soon prevented me from walking and put me off Cabacan. Apart from that, the plantation is terribly neglected because Engelhart himself is not able to look after it, as he is unable to walk. And thus the 20 blacks who are his workers muddle through as they think and most of the time do nothing. The young coconut palms are overgrown with climbing plants and already half dead. The 2-meter-high grass also makes sure that the coconut palms don't get enough light and food. Otherwise, Cabacan is a wonderful island, and one could create here a paradisical home, if it weren't for the malaria fever. No, New Guinea is in every respect a hopeless land, because the malaria fever spares no one and weakens with every attack. No form of lifestyle protects against it, and I would be glad if I can escape this land without contracting blackwater fever, which is also present here. After staying 6 weeks on Cabacan, I applied for a job among the firms at Herberto and found employment with E.E. Forsyth, Queen Emma, in Walloon, which, although modest, will free me from Cabacan. My favorite part of that letter is when he tries to act like it's not that bad, and then in the letter just quickly changes his mind. It's a wonderful island. I mean, there's malaria. I mean, but overall, it's who am I kidding? It's a shithole. It's hell on earth. I'm dying. We're all dying here. It's a hopeless land. This letter shows how bad things were not only for Engelhart, but just about every German settler in Cabacan, who could expect recurring bouts of malaria and fever, and that was just for starters. At the hospital in Herberto, doctors oversaw Engelhart's recovery. Demfulf, a German doctor at the hospital in Herberto, judged Engelhart to be a paranoid wreck. As soon as he was able, Engelhart did return to Cabacan, not in grave danger, but still to some extent pretty weak. That didn't stop him from proclaiming that through the pus that he had shed from his body while he was sick, the last pathological substances had been purged, which until then had prevented him from reaching his aesthetic ideal. No, it wasn't his new diet that made him sick. It was his old diet. All the shit he'd eaten back in Germany, all that fucking sausage, all that bratwurst, that was it. But fear not, for all that previous poison had been purged from his system. Hooray! Only coconuts going forth. By this time, the other August, Engelhart's old friend August Bethman, who had arrived the previous summer, he's questioned whether or not Cabacan really is the promised paradise. By June of 1906, Bethman expresses his official desire to leave New Guinea. He only lasted a year. He made arrangements to return to Europe with colonial officers, but he wouldn't make it back to Europe because he would die. But not of illness or from an accident. Historians generally agree that his death is the most mysterious of those who died in Engelhart's paradise. Was he Coco murdered? Coco killed? What we know is that Engelhart returned to Cabacan expecting everyone to welcome him with open arms and get back to the business of living naturally, but that Bethman was not about that lifestyle anymore. They had a big argument, which also could have included Bethman's partner, Anna Schwab, and then somehow Bethman was just dead. Historian Dieter Klein concludes, suicide, manslaughter, even murder cannot be ruled out. After Bethman's death, Anna Schwab leaves Cabacan for Germany, where she then joins up with an anarchist collective. That's perfect. She sounds very stable. First, coconut and sun-based lifestyle. Next, of course, is anarchy. Her published criticism of Engelhart's group led the governor of the island to order a temporary halt to new immigrants. According to records, a second female member of the Sonnenorden left shortly after her, becoming a nanny for the governor of New Guinea, Dr. Albert Hall, instead. Around this time, another person recorded as C. Weber, director of music, died shortly after his arrival to Cabacan. Soon, only Engelhart himself remained, so he's alone again. Alone with his coconuts. He's back to where it all started, but probably with skin that looked more like the inside of an old leather baseball catcher's mitt instead of human skin. He was now back to where it all started, except he was now an insane, sun-worshipping skeleton who shit only undigested coconuts and blood. Still, he would not give up. Why quit when you're ahead? Or way behind? Once again, he increased his advertising campaigns, which now sounded more deranged than ever. Will another 100 attempts fail? They are no proof against the tropics. At most, they are proof for the irrational lifestyle or organizational ability of the colonists. Cabacan is the first colony of the Sonnenorden, an equatorial settlers association I called into being, which has the double purpose, 1, to offer its members the best possible living conditions, to breed them into big, noble, healthy, holistic humans, says the 86-year-old pound dude. Or 86-pound, dude. 2, to found an international tropical colonial empire of fruit eaters. By putting a fine mesh net of colonies of pure naked fruit-eating life around the equator. That's right. Despite literally everything going badly, Engelhart has his eye on a kind of fruit-based global domination. I mean, sure, he can't currently get a single person to live with him on his cocoa compound. Sure, a lot of former coloners, their followers have died. But why let that stop you from doubling down on a terrible plan? He sounded like the weakest, saddest little supervillain ever. All 5 foot 4 inches, 86 pounds, sun-baked, coconut-fueled, pounds of him. I picture him pacing back and forth on the beach along a line of coconut, based scarecrow dummies dressed up to look like his followers. This is only the beginning. The world will be ours, my cocoa children. First, I'm going to sit down because I'm a little bit dizzy again. But then, when I'm feeling good, then I'm going to I'm probably going to lay down because my vision keeps blacking out. But after that, I'll probably head to the Big Island for some medical treatment, try and find out why my skin keeps cracking open and bleeding, why my hair falls out in clumps. But after that, I'll eat some more coconut and hope it doesn't break my teeth again. But then, world domination! Back to his mad ad campaign now. I call on all fructivores and friends of the natural lifestyle. I call on the weakest people on the planet to contribute to the construction of the Palm Temple of Fructivorism, which it intends to erect and to take part in the foundation of the fructivorous world empire. Bravely ahead, gaze turned to the sun, the source of life. Terms of admission to the Equatorial Settlers Association are 1. References from 2 trustworthy persons. 2, 1,000 mark, a one-off payment. Penniless only have to pay in relation to their economic circumstances. The poor have to pay nothing. Soon he will have his fructivorous, fucking whatever, made-up word world empire. He'll be the cocoa king, the mango megalomaniac. How the fuck would he check on references, by the way, from his remote coconut island with nothing but a shed and a hut on it? And why did he ask for money? I mentioned this at the beginning of the episode. You might think he was trying to turn this into a grift, but that was not the case. The fact of the matter was that so many people had died or needed medical assistance or needed help getting back to Germany that colonial officials now repealed the temporary ban of people going to his Cabacan Island, but were now requiring a 700 to 1,400 mark deposit for somebody who wanted to go in case they had to pay to fucking get them out of there or get them, fixed back up to health. And this was spurred on by a German-Russian member of his weird naked coconut sun club named Harald von Denfer, who had to work for the German colonial administration to pay for his travel costs back to Russia after he got sick of living on Engelhardt Island. Meanwhile, Engelhart is looking worse than ever. Local officials are concerned. One officer described him at this time as, quote, a ruin, thin as a skeleton, and covered in abscesses. My God. Dude, give it up. No, I will be the Cocoa King. All part of my transformation. Oh, I just lost vision in one eye. Even worse, his coconut plantation is now failing. In May of 1907, it was described as being seriously dilapidated and neglected to German authorities. Still, fucking somehow, this guy hangs on, living alone in his coconut hell for over 2 more years. In the summer of 1909, now 33-year-old August Coconut Skeletor Engelhart pulls the plug on the son of Norden, his cocoa nightmare. But he's not done. Oh, God, no. He's so close. He decides to use his new time, not being a pseudo-cocoa cult leader, to write more about his theories, as well as do some botanical research and try to revitalize his ruined plantation. To do so, he employs Wilhelm Bradke as manager of his plantation. Bradke had been a member of the Son of Norden back in 1903 before he left to work for the Forsyth plantation in 1904. But he's now back, baby! Oh, he's got the band back together. Cocoa Dream is still alive. There's more coconut to be eaten, more blood to be shat. Maybe. Engelhart's not doing so well right now. Area Christian missionary Heinrich Fellman would write, on our return trip to Ulu, we called on Cabacan to pay the coconut apostle Engelhart a visit, who eked out a miserable existence. He seemed to be fraught with his rheumatism and had to lie for months on end. Now he walks again, but only with a stick. Willie Bradke, his co-owner, not of his theories, but only in business relations. He doesn't say anything about him. I love that this missionary referred to him as the coconut apostle. Colonial doctors will now describe him as both a skeleton and a, quote, ruin of abscesses. And he's photographed with large white bandages all over his legs. How the fuck is he still alive? Because coconuts are miraculous. He's a cocoa miracle. Hail, coconuts. Abandon your life. Head to a tropical beach. In this so-called miserable existence, Engelhardt continues to publish a quarterly newsletter somehow called Sun, Tropics, and Coconuts. I fucking love it. Which he sends to subscribers in the colony and in Germany for 2 marks per year. And I'm guessing he was doing that. You know, we don't have a lot of source material, but I guess he was sending stuff to his brother, who, you know, over in Germany would copy it and then deal with subscriptions. Or maybe there was a printing press not too far away in New Guinea. These newsletters unintentionally will make him a strange tourist attraction. As the new decade dawns, a number of tourists will begin to visit the island from the nearby mission station at Ulu and wanted to see and photograph the last remaining member of the Sanatorium. It was, according to one source, quote, a must for everybody to go to Cabacan and be photographed with the only remaining cocovore. He coconutted himself into becoming a sideshow freak. One tourist wrote in a letter to his family, there was much talk about a planter E, Engelhart obviously, living on a small island, who dressed himself like the natives, solemnly lived on a diet of coconuts and recognized the sun, the heater of the universe, as the spitting image of God. Some thought this man was eccentric. Others thought he was a great philosopher. Many believed that this nature apostle used to get drunk from time to time and that his lifestyle was aimed at making himself interesting. Okay? Since this case began to interest me, I decided one day, accompanied by some other gentleman, to pay this man a visit on his island. The man lived in a small wooden hut of European style, but was dressed like a native. A red lava around his hips, that was all he wore. The skin, constantly exposed to air and sun, was as brown as one of the Kanakas, and the local tribal members, and his face was framed by a venerable beard. Striking was his leanness, which was eloquent testimony, I'm guessing, to his ascetic lifestyle. After I took a photo of this interesting man, we departed. And again, I was enriched by some ideas and impressions. Yeah, Engelhart would let the tourists take photos with him. He'd even sign postcards for them. He's like a fucking really sad celebrity. I've seen some of these photos, and he looks, as you might imagine, absolutely insane and near death. Like, try and picture how he looks. If you don't want to look it up, take the most mentally ill, emaciated, chronically homeless person you've ever seen in your whole life. Some guy who legitimately looks like he could be 25 or 75. Like, you could fucking flip a quarter, maybe he's 25, maybe 75. Put that dude on a tropical island, scraggly beard, wild eyes, super duper tan skin, like impossibly tan skin for a white dude. And that was August Engelhart, with a bunch of sores on his skin and can barely walk. Despite being a sideshow attraction, he remains undeterred somehow in his views, and he continues to argue for a lifestyle devoted to coconuts. In one postcard, he wrote, "Cocovorism has become a fact. We are making big steps forward." Are you? On Cuba, someone has been living on coconuts for over a year now, enjoys brilliant health. Ha, you see? Do you see? Meanwhile, he's using the remaining half of his fucking pointing finger as a pen to write this with. The top half snapped off due to severe malnutrition. He's been mixing blood with coconut milk to make the ink. Do you see? Do you see? My God is the sun. His nectar is the coconut. He's yelling all that while staring at a sun-bleached collection of skulls of his former followers, ranged on his desk, look like they're watching him work. Do you see? I'm the Cocoa King. And they called me mad. They called me mad, my children. I am the Cocoa King. However, by December of 1912, Engelhart, his spirits are low again. He's now thinking he might be dying again. He sends out his last will and testament to his relatives in Nuremberg, leaving them the household goods he had left behind before he took off on his cocoa venture. Though he held on to his ideals, the reality of his failing body had forced him to reckon with the fact that he'd never make big money as a coconut apostle and true coconut farmer. Then in early 1914, he promised to his subscribers that he would give up his coconut leaves, aka what he's now calling his newsletter, soon. The last member of the Sonnenorden to leave was probably a man named Schneider. There's a few people coming and going, who left to seek employment via a local Methodist church on New Britain as a tutor. William Bradke still worked on the island, and he'd employed 2 men named Mr. Rudd and Mr. Staudenmeyer to help manage the plantation and sell copra for Engelhart and Company. But then by August of 1914, World War I has broken out, and just 6 weeks after the outbreak of war, at the end of July, the colony of New Guinea, occupied by Australian troops after a brief struggle. Businesses, postal and radio communications with Germany come to a halt. In 1915, August Engelhart finds himself as an inmate in an internment camp in Rabaul, a port town on New Britain. I'm guessing he was perhaps the only prisoner who'd actually put on weight as a POW. right? Finally had to eat some food that was not coconuts. Fellow internee and missionary Ernest Botcher wrote that Engelhardt had brought along a box of books, which he placed at everyone's disposal, which probably included his own books on cocovorism. Eventually, sources don't know when, Engelhardt was allowed to return to Cabacan. Joined by William Bradke, Engelhardt now started on a new project of interviewing natives about medicinal plants, which he then depicted in watercolors, and he even sent some to Germany in the hopes that he would help be able to develop new drugs. Despite seeming to now want a new career, or I guess his old career as a pharmacist/chemist, Engelhardt continued to be a tourist attraction, even to members of the Australian military. He'd become the focus of an article published in the Rabaul Report, the official local paper run by the military administration. The article, published on August 1st, 1917, described life on Cabacan. The island is almost completely planted with coconuts. Of course it is. Which, having just recovered from an attack of beetles, are now looking well and promise fine crops in the near future. A considerable amount of money has been spent in improvements by the owners of the island, Engelhardt and Bradke, during the last 10 or 12 years. The island is eminently suitable for the use it is being put to, and the prospect for its future are quite good, but both of the owners are in bad health. Of course they are, and appear to have become tired of being planters, and desire to devote their time to scientific study. With that object in view, they are arranging to lease their property for a long time. Mr. Engelhardt is a well-known idealist, but so far as can be ascertained, he has not succeeded in obtaining any disciples in his colony. The principal outward and visible forms of his idealism are not such as to appeal to practical human beings of this age. Catch that? His ideas not practical to modern beings. That was probably the result of an argument between Captain Jones, an Australian military administrator, who visited sometime earlier that summer, and Engelhardt. According to records, the two argued about coconuts, and Engelhardt claimed that all one needed to live was 4 to 5 coconut trees. The fleshy center would provide food, the milk would provide drink, and the husk would provide shelter. Some remember Captain Jones departing, almost convinced. He reportedly asked his men, "Is it Engelhardt who is mad, or is it we? Could the world do without living examples in self-sacrifice, even if their ideals be wrong? And would we not all fall asleep if it were not for a sprinkling of extremists?" Interesting last thought there. I mean, extremists can be very annoying, often dangerous, but they are entertaining. They do make us think in different ways. They do make the world a more exciting, interesting place to live. That group of officers would be among the last to see Engelhardt alive. On May 6, 1919, August Engelhart dies at the age of 43. He did live, it seems, on almost only coconuts, outside of when he was either imprisoned or in a hospital for almost 17 years. He didn't live well. He was sick, starving, covered in sores, most of the time. But he lived. He existed for almost 17 years. Just 4 days later, he'd be followed by William Bradke. They were both killed by coconuts, falling out of trees and splitting their fragile, malnourished skulls open. Not really, but coconuts do kill people by falling out of trees. Way more than I ever expected. According to the Australian Institute of Marine Science, around 150 people a year are killed by falling coconuts. Maybe they're not God's nectar, but Satan's death rocks. I don't know. It's unclear what killed August or Wilhelm, where their remains lay today. They probably caught some, flu or something. They were fucking super weak from their terrible diet. Probably buried on the island somewhere. Engelhardt had instructed his writings to be sent to his old friend Emil Berenwenger. But because of the war, only a tiny fraction of Engelhardt's writings would ever reach their intended recipient. Ownership of Cabacan would pass to a man named Wilhelm Miro, who would then sell it to his Australian wife, Minnie. Weird that he was selling land to his wife, but I'm sure there's more of a story there. Both of them would start looking for the missing writings, but never find them. And one last cruel twist, the search for his writings wasn't actually motivated by anything philosophical, he believed, not by any of his sun and coconut bullshit, but because he'd actually done some worthwhile work cataloging and experimenting with plants. He probably would have made a great, pharmacist or a great botanist. It doesn't seem like he was a stupid guy, just fucking way too into coconuts. Very fixated. And now let's get out of here and recap.
Good job, soldier. You made it back. Barely.
August Engelhart and his Son in Orden. What a strange story. So not like the cult stories we normally tell. And I know it's not really a cult story. I had a hard time thinking of what to call this episode. It's hard to categorize it. It's more like a story about what was almost a cult. If August's coconut experiment would have been more successful. Like what if hundreds would have flocked to his island, worshiping the sun in the nude, feasting on coconuts? What if they would have gotten healthier, stronger, lived longer doing that? had it worked out like August wanted, I think there's a decent chance he would have ended up as some kind of weird sun god cult leader. And even though he did not run a cult, he did still hurt people with his crazy, dangerous ideas that he preached in ways like cult leaders do. People died. People ended up, based on his claims of, figuring out how to truly live with God, ruining their lives, getting stuck halfway around the world from their home. August Bethman, maybe even murdered. We'll never know. At the very least, what August preached was delusional and dangerous madness. I mean, think about it like modern terms. What if today some guy was advertising on Facebook or through Google ads or whatever, telling people that they just came to his island, if they just came to his commune and pranced around naked and ate only coconuts and worshipped and basked in the sun, they'd feel better than they've ever felt before. They'd live an ideal life. What would we think of that guy? Certainly that he's a wackadoodle, a dangerous wackadoodle, probably a scammer of some sort, right? What's the con? Akin to someone promoting something like drinking only celery juice will cure stuff like cancer. Remember that fad? It's faded in popularity over the past few years, but it's still around. The self-proclaimed father of the celery juice trend, dumb fuck grifter, Anthony William, aka the medical medium, a man with, of course, no medical or scientific certifications, still claims that he communicates with some spirit of compassion entity to get extraordinarily accurate health information that's often far ahead of its time. Totally. He was promoted on Gwyneth Paltrow's wackadoodle website Goop, where he said, "Celery juice is a miracle juice. It's one of the greatest healing tonics of all time. I've seen thousands of people who suffer from chronic and mysterious illnesses restore their health by drinking 16 ounces of celery juice daily on an empty stomach." No, you didn't, you liar. Get the fuck out of here. So many doctors have spoken out against his bullshit claims. Coconuts were Engelhardt's celery juice. No medical study has ever shown that either celery juice or coconuts have miraculous healing powers. They're good for you. Most fruits and vegetables are good for you, but not miraculous, not a cure-all. Just because Engelhardt was from the past, does that make him any better than people today like Anthony William, who claim they can cure cancer or autism or whatever with snake oil and magical thinking? At least with Engelhardt, I will say that he did, to his detriment, walk the walk. I mean, he did live that coconut life. As opposed to him being a blatant con man, I feel like he actually did convince himself that coconuts really were some sort of magic pill. Also, was Engelhardt trying to be like a early 20th century influencer? It's kind of funny to think of him that way. I mean, I'm sure he would have had an interesting following on Instagram if he was alive today. In a way, it's comforting to know that snake oil salesmen, people selling bullshit, whether they believe it or not, are nothing new. Con artists, influencers, whatever you want to call them, they've been around for a long time in every corner of the world, which I guess is also kind of a depressing thought. Speaks to how they will likely always be with us. What a weird dude. Born in Nuremberg in 1875, August Engelhart was among a counterculture movement of disaffected youngsters drawn to the back-to-nature Lebensform movement sweeping through Germany and Switzerland at the time. Its proponents yearned after some sort of unspoiled Eden, where people ate vegetables and raw food and could let their dicks and tits flop around in the sun, where they could literally lie in the mud and let sweet Mother Earth cure them of all that ailed them. Oh, it'd be so nice if it was that easy. But there are no miracle cures. All good things in moderation, including health fads. Coconuts are great for you as part of a healthy diet, not as all of your diet. Going to the gym, lifting weights, hitting the elliptical machine, etc. That's good for you. But if you lift it all day, every day, if you just fucking lived at the gym, working out, 12, 14 hours a day, you're not going to be stronger and healthier. You're going to be an emaciated, broken down mess of a human. Go get your mud baths. Run around naked in the sun. Fuck yeah, nothing wrong with that. But also, maybe sometimes go inside. Clean yourself up. Maybe sleep on a nice mattress instead of a pile of dirt. Maybe do some hydrotherapy while you're rinsing off in the shower. Then maybe put on some clothes and go to work, you fucking bum. You know what I mean? Balance. Have some balance. Don't work all the time, says the workaholic. And don't flop your dick around in the sun all day. Don't over toast your nuts. Don't leave those tits in the sun oven too long. End up with a pair of leather water balloons. Don't be an August Engelhart. From 1902 to 1919, Engelhart lived on a beautiful South Pacific island, eating for most of his time there literally nothing but coconuts, which he believed was the panacea for all of mankind's woes. Panacea, little used but very cool word. It means a remedy for all disease or ills, an answer or solution for all problems or difficulties. I'm not sure there is such a thing as a true panacea. If there is, certainly not a coconut mono diet. You can't live on only one kind of food. Not well, at least. August Engelhart helped prove that. That dude had no balance in his life. He went all in the weirdest of ways. Despite his best efforts, for the last many years of his life, the lonely cocovore was reduced to a mentally ill, rheumatic, severely malnourished, wild-eyed sack of bones with rashes covering most of his body and ulcers all over his legs, who was often bedridden for months at a time. Then he died as a coconut-filled walking skeleton at the age of 43. Do not be a coconut. Vary it up, Even if he could live longer and be healthier, eating only one kind of food, what kind of sad, boring life would that be? Time now for our takeaways.
Timesuck Top 5 Takeaways.
Number 1, the Sanatorium was a short-lived, not cult, maybe weird lifestyle group, commune, that existed on the little island of Cabicon in German New Guinea in the early years of the 1900s. No more than 30 followers ever lived there at once, and mostly it seems there wasn't nearly that many. Often it was just August Engelhart. August and his fellow cocoa apostles practiced the worship of the almighty coconut. That's such a weird truth sentence. The fruit of God, the literal representation of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and also the sun and the water and nudism, and hopefully they also did a decent amount of fucking on their tropical island. If they would have thrown in some, berries and fish into their diet, they could have had some sort of paradise for a while. Number 2, Engelhardt wasn't the only guy in the late 19th and early 20th centuries with some interesting ideas about how to live the ideal healthy life. He was good friends with the Juice brothers, who ran a sanatorium called Yungborn, where all sorts of things, including gushes, were common practice. Vaginal massage, sleeping on the ground, bathing naked, you name it. Hail Lucifina. And those ideas, very tame, compared to America's serial baron and madman John Harvey Kellogg, who literally advocated putting your cock in a cage and removing your clit to get you to stop masturbating and all other kinds of crazy shit. Number 3, Germany hoped to become an empire to rival Great Britain's, but that never happened. They did gain around 20 colonial possessions, but that was nothing compared to the global influence of the British Empire. World War I, the reparations it had to make, the colonies it had to give up, put a quick stop to that. Germany's fall also helped put a stop to August Engelhardt's dreams of the Sonnenorden. After being put in an internment camp by Australian soldiers, he seems to have lost his lust for the cocoa life, and then cataloged some plants mostly until his death in 1919. Number 4, Knipe.com. Still around. Those parasitical health fad grifters who've just never completely gone away. Father Sebastian Kniep's dumb shit health treatments, some of which you can literally do yourself with nothing more than a garden hose at home, still being sold to the desperate and gullible today. Number 5, new info. There are still people today trying to live that cocoa life, or at least trying to make you think they do. A former police constable, Bakarishan Pillai, a 63-year-old resident of Chandera, India, has been claiming he's eaten only coconuts for 24 years as a means for combating chronic acid reflux. But when journalists dug into the claim last year, they found that Mr. Coconut does sometimes break his diet. One day a week, he consumes raw or boiled vegetables that he grows on his farm, which is why I'm guessing he is not covered in skin lesions and is just very thin instead of a living skeleton. Don't believe the hype. No one's living a healthy life of only coconuts or of any other single type of food.
Timesuck Top 5 Takeaways.
August Engelhart and the coconut cult has been sucked. Utter madness. Thank you to the Bad Magic Productions team for helping making Timesuck, such as Queen of Bad Magic, Lindsay Cummins, running operations around here, Logan Keith, recording this episode, designing merch for the store at badmagicproductions.com. Thank you to Sophie Evans, once again doing a great job, providing initial research. Thanks also to the All Seeing Eyes, moderating the Cult of the Curious private Facebook page, the Mod Squad, making sure Discord keeps running smooth, and everyone over on the Timesuck subreddit and Bad Magic subreddits. And now for this week's updates.
Updates? Get your Timesucker updates.
Had some fun ones today. Kicking off this week's, they're always good, but I especially like this collection. Kicking off this week's updates with a quick comment about how strange the concept of race can be, in reference to the recent Joseph Paul Franklin suck. White Latino meat sack. Anthony Cabazon wrote in with the subject line of episode 396. Just a quick comment about race. Not a racist ramble, though, I promise. Hi, Dan. In the most recent episode, you asked the questions, what even is race and what does white even mean? These two questions come up for me every time I have to disclose my race on a government document. In your episode, you also mentioned people who might have tan skin at some point, such as Chileans. My dad is a Chilean immigrant, and I'm a first-generation Chilean American. We're both extraordinarily pale. In fact, most of my Chilean family is fairly pale, which is not uncommon for the part of Chile they come from. Whenever I fill out a government document, I always get stuck between two choices they offer in regards to my race. Those are the following options: Latino/Hispanic or white, not Latino-Hispanic. Those are verbatim the options I'm given. They make it very clear that white can't be Latino or Hispanic. What the fuck am I supposed to select? I literally reflect the sun with my skin, but I'm ethnically Hispanic. I've called government agencies before and asked what I should do in this situation. Most of the time they say to just pick one of the options, but in some circumstances they send an additional document to fill specifically specifically for white Hispanic people. It is truly weird that I oftentimes have to ask myself, what the fuck even is my race when in those situations? Anyway, that's the email. No sign off. Some things just end abruptly. Anthony. Anthony, I like your ending. Yeah, your race is meat sack. On the next form, cross out both options. Write, I am meat sack. Where one choice would be, and then write, Hail Nimrod, in the other. No, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, I can see that they want you to check the Latino Hispanic box because you come from a nation deemed Latino, but it is silly. What if you were full-blooded German, but your dad and yourself both born in Chile, and you're still supposed to write Latino? Are you still supposed to write that? I mean, it is silly, really, and it's just going to get sillier as time goes on because of all the people of different, pigments and races, whatever, from all over the world having more and more kids together. Next, another Richard Byrd message. Oh, we've gotten so many that continue to pour in. Meat sack sucker Jacob Cave did get got. He wrote in with the subject line of betrayal of the ages. What is up, Dan, you motherfucker? I just got done with latest suck and I'm horrified by this betrayal. Let's back up a bit. First off, I'm a big fan. Started listening to you back in episode 4 or 5 of Scared to Death. Then I've slowly been catching up on Timesuck, and I have to say 3 out of 5 stars wouldn't change a thing. Now on to the betrayal I never saw coming or releasing. You get it. First off, I truly enjoyed the episode, even though I know none of this is true. But it was still an amazing story. So amazing, in fact, that as I listened to the episode and you were telling these, quote, facts, I was relaying them to a few coworkers. I would tell them about how this creep of a dude would stand over his sister and would come on her hair and then would steal one of her hairbrushes to put up his ass and watch a neighbor lady from a tree. My coworkers would be surprised to hear about someone doing something that absurd. But when you got to the part with his last victim and she absolutely beat the shit out of him, now I was getting so hyped up on my forklift, listening to it like it was the last play of the Super Bowl, I was yelling stuff like, kick his ass, hit him in the nuts again. I was so excited for this woman who I'd never met solely because she was whooping the ass of a creep. I paused the episode, ran to the coworkers I was talking to about the episode to tell them about the epic conclusion of him getting the shit kicked out of him. How I wish a lot of Timesucks would go, to be honest. I was so overjoyed for this woman and happy that Dick got his dick kicked. It was poetic justice. Then we get to the top 5 takeaways, and here's where the seeds of your lies start to take root and show their true colors. I have been hoodwinked, made out to be a fool among my coworkers. I'm ashamed that I was fooled so easily. Either way, I'm in the cult. No use trying to escape now. If you end up reading this on air, could you please give a shout out to my friend Rachel? I got her into Timesuck almost a year ago now, and she loves your podcast as much as I do. Thanks for everything you do. Everyone else at Bad Magic does. Y'all bring a lot of joy and lies to all of our lives, and y'all are truly going to leave this world a much better place than what it was when y'all got here. Sincerely, your dummy, Jake. P.S. Wake up. There's a gas leak. Jake, I love the emotional roller coaster you went on, went for a ride on that day. So good. I hope you also had a laugh with those coworkers later. And I wish more Timesucks, also would end with some creep getting a beat down. I hate that almost never happens. And hello, Rachel. I hope you had fun with Dick Turd as well. And one of my favorite moments from Is We Dumb definitely was, wake up, there's a gas leak. Now with the subject line of All Hail Master Dan, riders of Lucifina's bicycle, I am a Mormon. Mormon Meat Sack R writes in, she didn't ask to remain anonymous, but based on just listing R as a sign off, I'm going to err on the side of caution. My God. Hey, Master Sucker, I hope I got your attention this time. I have something to say about your Mormon Manson suck last week. You probably deduced with your enormous brain cells I'm an LDS member. I always find it interesting whenever there is an episode that touches on my beliefs. And listen, I hear all that weird stuff, like how black people were cursed for being wicked, and how young adults like myself tend to get married too fast and usually have no idea how to have sex. Only one of those is true, LOL. When you mentioned blood sacrament, I was confused. I didn't doubt it, but I find it ironic that my church doesn't delve into its faults, yet tends to be a bit sheltered and let me wonder if anyone believed black people were wicked Lamanites. I have the confidence to believe that any church organization / belief in existence has committed atrocities and have been addressed in some way. In southern Utah, there was a massacre the early pioneers committed against traveling immigrants. The church at the time did apologize. There was a massive misunderstanding over a guy who was really hateful and kind of racist. And the Children of Thunder cult in California, that sent me into a freaking tizzy, blew my mind that screaming therapy was endorsed and real. My point is, unless I looked it up, I and nobody else would know the darker parts of religion. I find it really stupid that people kill, quote, in the name of God. I guess it makes them feel like a god. I have every reason to decide not to attend my church, but it's sort of like my community. Not all wards are great, but not all are horrible. I have the best quote that I live by. Hate the belief, love the believer. I'm not here to defend or glorify my choice of religion. I wanted to give an insight about my experience in it. I grew up in it. My feelings have always been mixed. I like to keep my mind open, even if I never leave. I'm fascinated by others and frown on ones that refuse to step out once in a while and breathe some different air. I love listening to your podcast. I've learned so much about my own religion that I've lived my whole life in it. And I have lived my whole life in it. I know it sounds culty, but most people love God. There's a lot of good people, even if some are not. I'll be honest, it's pretty hard to get excommunicated. You can choose to leave or come back, kind of like a book you forgot you had. The church has touched on current events and teachings versus decades ago. The church, like so many Christian ones, adapts and changes, and they have done a very good job being more or less transparent to followers. If I can add to this already incredibly long email, could you give a shout out to Jerry $5? He's my brother-in-law and introduced me to Timesuck almost 10 years ago. Or how many years it's been since you were recording Richard Ramirez in a hotel room. You're the best. Screw you for making up all that dick turd shit. 2 days wasted listening to your bullshit. Actually wrote BS. Thanks again. I hope this reaches you. R. R, thank you for a lovely email. I like your perspective on your religion. And you know what? You're right. No organization, just like no single person, is without faults. We all make mistakes. All of our beliefs change over time. The same is true for big institutions, corporations, governments, religions. And I don't doubt for a second that a lot of good comes out of a lot of churches. There's a lot of good people in them. I love that. Hate the belief, love the believer. And I don't even hate all of the belief, just the parts that hurt people. But there's a lot of other parts as well that people take a lot of solace in, find a lot of comfort in. I wish that more people of faith could be a lot more like you. You seem like, I just wish more people in general. You seem like a good one, a great one, Art. I'm impressed that you can walk in both worlds and appreciate both. I hope you keep enjoying your faith. I'm being sincere. And also this silly little cult of ours here. Hail Nimrod. And now one more from someone who really related to the Mormon Manson episode. Super Sack Ezra writes in with the subject line of, I freaking grew up as a polygamous kid, gosh dang. This is an amazing message. What's up, Suckmaster Supreme? I've been waiting for you to suck Ervil LeBaron since I started listening to you. Such a good suck. It sucked as good as I hoped it would. A buddy of mine turned me on to your podcast about 4 or 5 months ago. And the very first podcast I listened to was the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell suck. I've been hooked ever since. I listen to you about 2-3 hours a day while I commute to and from work, catching up on back episodes. I quickly got all the Mormon sucks out of the way first before I dove into the other ones. And I must say, dang, you're spot on with your accuracy of your research when it comes to Mormonism. As someone who grew up in a polygamous community and studied my way out, this suck hit especially close to home for me. I grew up in a little town located about 40 miles south of Missoula, Montana, called Pinesdale. Man, that's not very far from where I am, and I'm not familiar with Pinesdale. It was founded by Rulon Allred, but I didn't look it up. It was founded by Rulon Allred from the AUB group. Yes, the same poor bastard that Ervil LeBaron ordered to be blood atoned. Growing up, I heard stories of how almost godlike Rulon Allred was, believing he was a level 5 light worker because he saw and touched Jesus in the flesh. Look up Rulon Allred testimony on YouTube. My dad's first wife is Rulon's daughter, making her a level 3 light worker, or in my mom's eyes, a level 3 dark zombie. Some of my brothers are Rulon's grandchildren. Kind of had that rubbed in my face my whole life, but most of them are pretty good, between level 1 and 2 light workers, except for one brother. You know that shitty Sister Wives show? My brother was Robin's first husband. That makes him a level 1 dark zombie. She fricked him up. Wow. So I grew up a member of AUB and was fully in up until about 4.5 years ago. That's fucking wild. While I was in AUB, I was a good boy. Well, good-ish. I got married and made covenants in the Lord's house, or their wannabe temple, where my wife and I had garments ceremoniously placed upon us, and we were given new names, taught some pretty cool new handshakes. Then we made a promise to God, or maybe just a couple creepy old men, that we would live in polygamy and build up our bicycle collection. My wife cried that day and almost every day since about how uncomfortable the garments were. She wasn't too excited about polygamy either. But the garments we had to wear were a one-piece suit that we're supposed to fully cover our bodies except for our hands, feet, head, and neck. Not a very sexy feeling if you're a woman. Lucifina, not happy at all. I mean, come on. Also kind of hard to ride a bike when there's excess temple lingerie getting caught in the sprocket when you're trying to pedal. Gosh dang, almost wrecked a couple times for heck's sake. Anyway, almost about 5 years ago, I did a deep dive into my own religion, and holy shit. You know when there's a question you can't find an answer to, so you put the question on your shelf so it doesn't drive you fucking crazy? Well, I did that for years. Stuff like Joseph Smith's polygamy, polyandry, First Vision, Book of Mormon, historicity, Book of Abraham, 1886 Revelation, Mountain Meadows Massacre, etc. One day I decided to dust off those old questions and tackle them head on, and my proverbial shelf came crashing down. I questioned everything. I studied hard for 6 months straight. I mean every day, a couple hours a day for 6 months. It was the loneliest, scariest, most confusing year of my life. I was so brainwashed and indoctrinated that even though I had the facts in front of me, I was afraid to believe for fear of apostatizing and becoming a son of perdition. For 6 months, I had to think past the fear and reason with the facts. Leaving a religion is hard, especially a fundamentalist religion where you're required to give yourself fully to it. I had no one to talk to help me through leaving. For a while, I had to fake it to my fellow cult members that I was questioning anything. After a while, it was a dead giveaway.
Dead giveaway. Dead giveaway. My neighbor got big testicles because we see this dude every day.
Every day. I was a goner. I love that you wrote cue music there. I went from a level 2 or 3 lightworker to a level 5 zombie demon, son of perdition, not getting any more new bikes in my future apostate. I kept on slipping down that slippery slope and left all religion altogether. I don't really believe in anything besides being honest and being kind to one another, but I do like hearing about people's psychedelic trips. Maybe there is something more. I don't know. I got out of AUB with my wife and family intact. Hail Nimrod. Yes, that is beautiful. I no longer have pressure or guilt hanging over my head to fulfill obligations or promises to build up my bicycle collection. That's fucking crazy. I'm liberated and it truly feels amazing. And the best part for my wife is she doesn't have to wear the garments. She can wear shorts and a t-shirt in the middle of the summer and be comfortable. Hail Lucifina. And hey, I don't have to worry about getting the old Jesus jammies caught in the sprocket while I'm pedaling. Now I'm starting to learn more tricks and stuff. You know what I mean? That's great. Anyway, thanks Dan the Man for doing Timesuck and keep me entertained on my commutes to and from work. Thanks for being a good meat sack, reminding me to be a good meat sack too. I go pee-pee in the body like a good boy. I don't make my wife shit on my chest, and I've never shit on hers. I've never started a cult or killed a sex worker or two, or a baby, or a zombie, or a dog, or a cat. I do, however, make my kids fear me and read the scriptures just in case I want to go off the rails and start a cult someday. So thanks for sucking shittier people to me. It's great for my self-worth. Usually when I get done listening to Timesuck, I think, at least I ain't that guy. Yeah, I think that a lot too. So thank you. Oh, and thanks for ruining Papa John's pizza for me. I can't eat pizza without thinking about hair in it. I had the worst visual when Papa John's forced you to advertise their new pizzas during the Alive and the Andy Suck. 3 out of 5 stars, wouldn't change a thing. Sorry, not sorry for the length of this email, but one more thing. How did you not put Pat Sajak in this Timesuck? You asked if Vonda White was related to Vanna White, and I was waiting for Pat Sajak to show up. I was actually kind of bummed. I just imagined that when Rena took off her wig after killing Rulon, it would really be Pat Sajak. But whatever. If you read this email on Timesuck, I left my real name out, but I'll give you my new name, Ezra. Can you give a shout out to some of my friends? They'll know who they are. Israel, Jonah, Adam, Abraham, Luke, John, Peter, James, Joseph, Brigham, Taylor, Hiram, Alma, Moroni. And to my awesome wife, Rhoda Schwindella. Oh, that's great. Rhoda Schwindella. Wow, Ezra. What a fucking ride that message was. It was like a mini episode. I was riveted. What an interesting life you've led, you courageous son of a bitch. Good on you. Hail, Ezra. You got to set a giant stone ball, Sonia. But how inspiring, seriously. Your message made my day. You're a good one. I can tell you're a great husband, and your kids, oh my God, are they going to respect the shit out of you when they get old enough to understand what you've done? I hope your day is going great. I hope your story will inspire others. And sorry for the Pat Sajak miss. It was right there. And also, you are funny as hell. Keep living a curious, examined, authentic life. I hope it's a long, fulfilling, and healthy one. Easy on the coconuts. Hail Nimrod, everyone.
Next time, suckers. I needed that.
We all did.
Thank you for listening to another Bad Magic Productions podcast. Scared to Death, Timesuck each week. Short Sucks and Nightmare Fuel on the Timesuck and Scared to Death podcast feeds some weeks. Please don't try and live on coconuts alone this week. You probably won't die. You're not going to die this week, but I can't imagine you'll feel very good. And also, don't put your cock in a cage or burn your clit either. Just calm down. Just calm the fuck down and keep on sucking.
Mad Magic Productions.
So can we talk a bit more about Kellogg's frosted cock cages? How exactly would one of those cock cages work? Like, I'm picturing a jock strap of some sort, that kind of setup, but with metal chains instead of elastic bands wrapping around the thighs. Also, how would that keep you from not jerking off? You know, when you just be able to easily take your dick out of the cage, put it back in the cage. Aren't you the warden of your own cock cage? Does it have straps, though, maybe that wrap over your shoulders, and then the straps also go around your ass and up your back, and then in the middle of the back, these straps come together, or chains really, and they get locked where you can't reach it to unlock it? Or is the locking mechanism in an easy-to-reach place, but you just give the key to unlock your cock cage to someone who won't just unlock it if you're horny? And how will they know you're horny, as opposed to just needing to take it off to take a piss? Do they have to do a boner check before unlocking your cock? Or do you just have to pee through the cage and never take it off? Wouldn't that make it harder to sleep? How big is the cage? Is it big enough to accommodate a boner, or only big enough to accommodate a flaccid baloney pony so that it hurts when you start to heat up, further deterring you from cleaning the muzzle of your purple-headed custard cannon? If you or someone you love wears a cock cage, please write in. Let me know. I don't want to start, getting sleep deprived, because I just keep staying up at night, needing these very important questions answered.